welcome to episode 38 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills and I am joined, as always, by Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week, we looked at our first batch of games from issue 19 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and were wowed by World Games, photosynthically challenged by Fungus, and vexed by Velocipede 2. This week, we conclude our look at the games in November 1986, along with what was lighting up our TV and cinema screens that month. So, Graham, fill us with your love and tell us of the pleasures in store this episode.
In this eye-watering California Reaper-infused chili con carne of an episode, we explore the speedy shoot-'em-up world of the Thala must-have Sanction, get our blocky martial arts kicks from punching and floating our way through the derisible ninja, and become enraged at the rotationally inept and directionally challenged hunt for a game logic of the annoying Nomad. We also get down to earth with the grounded Moon Patrol-inspired Jeep Command, and grab our brooms and feather dusters for a multi-platform tidy-up with the arcade-looking It's clean-up time. If all that fiery chili hasn't quite melted your sheriff's badge, we also head off to Gaul for a slowly drawn-out game of hide-and-seek with the Romans in Asterix and the Magic Cauldron. Try and find and defuse bombs with robots, or something, in the confusing split-screen and brain-scrambling Deactivators before finally grabbing our joysticks tight and hanging on for dear life in the turbocharged race and shoot-'em-up AlleyKat. Never touch your joystick after chopping fresh chilies, AD. It will make you weep.
Fulfilling. What we got first? Do you know what we got first? You know what we got first, don't you? Stop nodding at me like I should know. I'm only the host. What do I know? First up, we have Sanction. That's a big game, isn't it, Sanction? Well regarded, well liked.
Mahusive, I think, is the polite term.
Yeah, so Sanction. So let's talk Sanction, shall we? So this is a Stavros Fasoulas game. It's actually his second game on the C64. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. What's his
first game is a game called Joe the Wiz Kid and was released in 1985. Okay. It was a side-scrolling sort of arcade platformy type collect-em-uppy shooty thing. Okay. And it was made in early 1985, pre-Zap.
Right.
And then he obviously took some time off to learn his coding, a bit more coding shops. Actually, I watched a YouTube video of it, Joe the Wiz Kid, and it was okay. It was okay. Yeah. Anyway, this is his second game, and this is obviously, is it Thalamus? Thalamus's first game as well, isn't it?
It is Thalamus.
Thalamus have arrived on the scene.
They have.
So ex-Zap writer, Mr. Liddon, Gary Liddon, is the producer on this game. So make that what you will. Probably nothing. Anyway, this is a much more ambitious game than Joe the Wiz Kid. And what it is essentially this is a horizontal shoot-'em-up in the style of R-Type, Nemesis, Salamander, etc., etc., etc. So left to right scrolling shoot-'em-up. I never knew this game had a story, but it does.
Yeah, it's got like a whopper.
A big and over-the-top and rather pointless one, really, when it comes down to it. But supposedly the US and the USSR were about to go to war until a huge UFO was discovered in the Arctic Circle, not at all inspired by the thing. What ensues is the superpowers realizing their mistakes, because it was the aliens all along causing all the international tensions and the disrupted satellites and all the stuff going wrong. So they put the differences together and they decide to work together and they start Project Damocles. And within no time we have Operation Sanction. Love these titles, they're great. So Operation Sanction is 10 ships, I think, or a number of ships that have been designed to patrol the Earth and kill off any of the invading alien scum. There we go. That's
sounds
the story.
about normal. About normal.
Yeah, so, it's one of those things. So, in light of that, what we have is a left-to-right side-scrolling shoot-'em-up, but with it's got some twists, so it's not quite, as normal. The screen is kind of, so it's split in two, which is unusual. Almost Defender-like, kind of, because the bottom, say, 3/4 of the screen is just your standard side-on shoot-'em-up. So, enemies come on from the right, sometimes from the left. You dodge up and down, move forward and back, and you shoot them. The top part of the screen, though, is a slightly wider view of the landscape, and it's kind of like a radar, I guess is the best way to describe it. So you can get a bit of an advance warning on ships coming up, up your rear or in or from the front, and so no one likes to be surprised from the rear or the front.
Did you say side on or wide on?
No, it's side on.
Okay. Contextually, it would have made more sense, but
well, to be fair, the top-down view gives you a bit more of a wide-on view.
Hey.
But it's from the top.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that would be. That's like I don't know,
It's an angle
challenge.
that should never be done.
No, probably not. So you can move up and down, and kind of like another game we played the other week, which I'll mention in a little bit. Moving right and left speeds you up and slows you down respectively. So you can speed the scrolling up. It's not a fixed scrolling speed. So whereas things like Nemesis, R-Type, I believe, are just fixed scrolling speeds, and you don't have any codes, you just move around within the actual play area. This allows you to speed up and slow down respectively, kind of like Iridium, I guess, in that respect, but only scrolling left to right. You're always going left to right, always going to the right. So the objective is to loop round, I think it's 10 territories, and kill any aliens you come across. That's it. Blast them. Just blast them. Shoot them. Just shoot them. Once you loop around, you return to the base. So you start off on a little landing pad, and you return to a little landing pad. And then you get a bit of a bonus round, which seems, every game has to have a little bonus round these days. And this one is just a load of coins coming at you on a psychedelic backdrop, like the Parallax title screen, really. And you shoot them, and that's really. I thought the graphics were pretty nice. They're chunky bas relief, should we say? They've gone to the chunky shop for bas relief graphics. They're also chunky.
Portly.
But, yeah, they're chunk. But there's some the parallax scrolling's really nice. I thought the foreground, the background, the way it speeds up and slow downs. I thought that was actually quite clever and quite good. The variety of the enemies is pretty decent. The actual enemy sprites and your main sprite are nicely drawn. Nicely animated. There's a lot going on there. There's a load of different types of patterns to learn and react to. There's loads going on. There's different enemy types. The controls are decent enough, and the challenge I thought is pretty solid. I haven't spoken about the music yet. What do we say about the music? Great loading piece. Great loading piece of music. This is one of Hubbard's best. No two ways around that. It's a nice, epic, sci-fi type score. Unlike the title screen, I was never. I can appreciate it, but I've never been a massive fan of that title screen music. It's all right, but it is what it is, isn't it? It's a classical piece of music that Hubbard did, and it's like a very good piece, but I'm not sure it fits the game. I don't know. I'm not sure what they were aiming for or what the thought was behind that. Always left me a bit nonplussed. This, for me, if you flip this and put it horizontally, this felt like what Trap was aiming to be. And Trap has a similar control scheme that you can speed up and slow down. It has that same chunky bas relief, nonsense, graphical style in a sense. But this does it horizontally, allowing you much more screen real estate space to actually play properly the prescribed waves of enemies rather than the random nonsense of Trap. So this succeeds for me where Trap, failed miserably. I went back to this and I wasn't sure, because I played Delta a lot. In the intervening years, but I've never really gone back to Sanction, and so I wasn't sure whether I was going to like this or not. I actually found myself really enjoying this. It's a solid left to right horizontal shoot 'em up, and I enjoyed my time with this. I think it's a cracking game still to this day. If you like shoot 'em ups, this is a good one, and I think probably one of the best left to right traditional shooters we've had so far. I don't think we've had many better. Maybe I'm off on a limb here, but what did you think? What's your view?
I disagree with you completely in every aspect.
Oh, damn it.
Actually, no, that's not true.
Let's have a massive argument.
So, I like the loading music to Sanxion. I don't love it, but I like it. It's okay. The game itself is very high on production values, very low on much else. So there's a lot of demo logic in this game, the way it transitions between the game and the way it does stuff. The presentation and the trappings of the game are all good. They clearly have wrapped the game in an enormous sci-fi riddle because there isn't a lot to the game, and I think that's one of its key problems. So it is a good side-scrolling shooter in some ways, but my feeling about this game is it's a game that is the good, the bad, and the ugly in a lot of respect.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. So from the game, okay, so the music is really good in the game. It is good. The loading music, all the game music inside. I like the Prokofiev Dance of the Night piece that Hubbard's done. It's from Romeo and Juliet. It's weird that's in this game, but there it is. And it's quite a good version of that. Yeah, that's what I
mean. It's not that it's not a bad piece of music. I'm just not sure it fits.
But this game is a product of component thinking, I think, and that's where I'm coming from. So the music's good. The speed of the game is great. It moves at a real pace. And I like some of the animations in it, the way you blow up, the sort of flight animations, and some of the animation style is quite nice. So those are the good things. And the controls in the game, I like the way it controlled. It was nice. From a bad point of view, I thought the game lacks purpose. I think even if you've wrapped it in this story, it's just endless and impossibly difficult, and it becomes even more difficult as time goes on. And it's just shooting stuff ad infinitum, which is fine, but there is only so much of that is going to wash. It's level after level after level after level after level of the same thing over and over and over and over again, which is fine, but just if you do that, you start to lose the sense of purpose that a game like this has. Nemesis and Catechus and some of the other games that sort of, obviously they post-date this a little bit, but some of those other games have a purpose. They have an end. They have a thing. This just doesn't. It just goes on and on and on. You get bonus levels in between, but it goes on and on and on and on and gets more and more difficult. And I think the ugly part of this game is that the graphics, I think the super bas relief makes the game look chunkier than it should be. This game lacks the nimbleness, and I think those base relief graphics in some ways kind of work. It's almost like this is a side-scrolling Warhawk in some strange way. So some of it's nice. The display is nice. The dual display is quite nice in one way, that it's nice that it has that, but it serves no purpose to this game when you're playing it, other than it gives you kind of a heads up of things that are going to hit you no matter what, because the speed of the game belies the fact that by the time you've seen something in that top-down radar, you can't do anything about it anyway. And so I think the display means that there's not enough screen space for you to play the game as a player, which means then the radar is useless. So you're actually getting the worst of both things. It would have been better to have no radar and more screen space like Delta, or less screen space and make the game more Iridium-like, which is kind of the thing they were going for a little bit here. So they've gone for the arcade Iridium dollar. Iridium rules this space of this side-scrolling super fast shoot. It rules this space at the moment. So Sanction's come along and it's brought all of the production values and some of the lessons that they've learned about what makes C64 gamers tick. So great soundtrack, tick, by Rob Hubbard, tick. Bas relief graphics are quite popular at the moment and stuff, tick. Super fast side-scrolling action, tick. Lots of enemy types flying at you, tick. But the trouble is, and this is something that you've alluded to in other games, they've taken all of those best parts of the ingredients of a game and just bolted them together in the hope that it makes a good game. And in actuality, what it makes is kind of a boring game. So it looks great, and the first few levels, and you're into it, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. Longevity, playability, and all of those things are something that is not here. It's absent from Sanxion. And no matter how much Rob Hubbard music you throw in there, and no matter how much demo graphics and style and logic you throw into the production and the way you transition between levels and things like that, no matter how much of that you put in, what you are left with is a kind of dull, side-scrolling shooter that is superseded by other games very quickly. Nemesis is better than this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not saying this is a perfect shooter or anything. In fact, my comment was just going to be, well, I like it.
Well, my question, I have a question mark, and my question mark is this. So Newsfield Publications are the people that are behind Thalamus. Newsfield Publications are also the people that are behind Zap 64. And so,
yeah, I know.
So I think this is a bit of a eating your own dog food situation. And they gave this game 93%. Does it deserve 93%? Graphics look like Light Force to they look a bit like Light Force, but the graphics look a bit like Trap to me. So they've got that trappy blockiness.
I think they're a much nicer version. That's what I said. I see this as Trap, but this is a much better version. This is what Trap wanted to be.
But at least Trap had a demo. This doesn't even have that. So I think the real adjunct of this game is the difference between the loading screen, which shows sci-fi ambition, and the titles music, which is a piece from Romeo and Juliet. If that doesn't tell you that at some point there was no conversation between Rob Hubbard and Stavros Vassoulis and the game production team, then something's badly wrong. Now, I know that Rob Hubbard, when he works on games, very much wants to know how the game's going to look and feel and play so he can really tie the music into that game. The fact that this has got a standardized version of a Prokofiev piece as a title music tells me that conversation never happened.
Maybe they did. Maybe they asked him for that. But the loading screen, though, is very sci-fi, very fitting,
yeah, it is.
I thought.
But the title music isn't. And what I mean to say is, if you've got a team of people, think of Parallax and the way Galway was involved in that. Galway created a 11-minute opus for Parallax, which John Hare and the team were just blown away by because it tied into kind of the synth and the sort of synth themes and the synthetic themes and all the sci-fi of that game. For this to have a standard Rob Hubbard version of a classical piece of his title music tells me that there's a conversation that never happened. And that worries me with this game because I think that they brought all the component pieces of the jigsaw that they thought would work together and threw it into this. It didn't work here, but it did work in Delta later down the line.
Maybe.
This is pre-Delta for me, so it's certainly not deserving of 93%. Music, don't get me wrong, amazing, but everything else, I think this game is failing and repetitive and dull, and I found it, I'd have rather have played Warhawk for $2.99 with a Rob Hubbard piece in that than this.
No, I can get all that. I understand that, and it is. I think the more you play it, you do get a sense of diminishing returns because you do realise that it's a lot of shiny trousers and not much in there, unlike Labyrinth. Well,
if you're going to do that, if you're going to play a game that's like that, then play Warhawk because it's cheaper and it does the same thing.
Yeah, true. True. I think this is better than Warhawk, personally. Whether it's worth the extra cash is the next thing. I think this is better than that. I think this is a more solid shooter than Warhawk. But I completely understand what you're saying, and I do get that. I'm not quite so down it, I think, as you. I did enjoy my time with it, and playing it. I played it for quite a while, and it is hard. I don't mind that. Shoot 'em ups are notoriously hard. Things like, Ikaruga and down the line and Radiant Silvergun and all those kind of Don Pachi and all those kind of like bullet hell shmups. They're designed to be hard. This is weirdly hard. I didn't mind the top-down radar. It gave you a heads up, something coming from behind generally, which was useful. Most of the stuff coming up in front of you just shot, and I didn't really have much of a problem with it. It just gets a bit hard as you get into like levels 3 and 4. I don't know if it's got... I've never completed it. I've never got anywhere near level 10 because, it is very difficult.
The question I would ask you is, what was the difference between level 3 and level 7?
I don't know because I never got to level 7, so
The answer is that there is no difference.
But the story states you're just patrolling your bit of land.
And I get all that, but take the story out because that's just dressing the crab.
I know.
At the end of the day, this game presents you no more than it did at level 6 than it would have at level 3. It's the same game. There might be slightly different colours and slightly different colour schemes. The game does not change. It's Warhawk. Warhawk did the same, but Warhawk at least made it cheaper. I found myself a little bit annoyed with this. And don't get me wrong, the technical chops on display, as a first game, it's amazing. But I think there's just but the first Thalamus big release. But there's something about Sanxion that, for me, always felt a little bit wrong. And I could never quite put my finger on it till I replayed it this time. And this is probably going to come as an anathema to all the Sanxion addicts out there. I'm not disputing that the fact that the Sanxion soundtrack is brilliant, and the fact that, there's a really... I hesitate to use the term great version of it that was done on kind of synthesizers and keyboards that was on a Zapped cover tape.
Oh yeah, there was one.
Yeah, I'll put a link to it in the show notes because it is worth listening to. It's not great, but it is worth listening to. The truth of the matter is, for me, that this game is no different to Warhawk. The only difference is, because it's Rob Hubbard's soundtrack, it's got decent graphics, it's got bass relief, it's got endless repetitive gameplay. The only difference is the direction of play and the fact that you get a slight radar view of the map. And for me, I played Sanction back in the day, but it was never one that held my attention that much.
No.
I don't know if I actually played this, to be fair a little bit to it. I think I may have played other shooters, side-scrolling shooters, before I got to Sanction. So I think I may have played Nemesis and a couple, maybe one other, but I think maybe Nemesis is the one I play because my memories of side-scrolling shoot-ups are being able to sort of power up and collect stuff and do those kind of things, which is absent here. And that's more of a Sanction thing.
Multiple and stuff like that.
Yeah, and of course then Delta comes along and, but then Delta had, insane difficulty levels, but we'll come to that later down the line.
I know I've got issues with Delta. We'll get to them when we come alongside Delta. So I've got things to say about Delta, but we'll get to that. Yeah, okay, well, that's Sanction then. I think I like it a bit more than you, but I completely understand what you're saying. It is a game of diminishing returns, but I think, and I think you're right, this does feel like a game where the constituent parts don't quite gel correctly, and I think you're spot on there. I think you're right.
And in the pantheon of side scrollers, it's not the greatest, and it certainly gets bettered. It does.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But we've not had. To be fair, though,
we haven't had many.
I know you said Uridium aside, but Uridium's kind of drop zone-ish, and it's left and right shooty. You can go either way and sort of patrolling it, so it's more defender-ish. We've not had. I'm trying to put my mind to this sort of thing. If we've actually had any traditional left to right side scrolling shoot 'em ups at this point.
Other than the kind of the scramble kind of clones, which were probably, I don't know if there's been any, but yeah, I don't think there's been a pure side scrolling shooter till this. I think this is the first real attempt.
I'm trying to put my mind on. I'm trying to think back through all the stuff we've played.
We'll get corrected by the powers.
Yeah, probably. But if the thing is, what I would say is, if there was one that was any good, we would have remembered.
Yeah.
I think that's the point, isn't it? There may be other little ones sort of thing that we've just wiped from our mind because they were pure dog egg.
Yeah.
But whatever it is. Anyway, there you go. There's Sanction. That's our first review. Let's move on to our next one because it only goes up from here.
If only it did.
So Graham, it's time to don your black leotard again and leggings and mask. Get yourself a bit of a tan as one of these, but not your face. And tell us all about the thriller ride that is Ninja.
So Ninja is a budget game
in every way,
in every possible way. So it's a flick screen ninja themed fighting game. You control a ninja, obviously, the ninja of the title of the game. The idea of it is to infiltrate a palace, kind of room by room, fighting and killing guards as you go, and finding idols. So if you find enough idols, you win the game. Along the way, you can pick up things to throw, so shuriken, stars, daggers, other ninja-y type things, the usual ninja things. And periodically, you can sort of jump up and down between levels. I'd hesitate to use the term jump, really, kind of float off and fall, really. So that's the game, and that's what you're presented with. The graphics are blocky, so it's quite chunky, blocky, quite basic graphics, really. It's another ninja game, so it's obviously got ninja fighting moves, if you could call them that. And it felt a bit like, it's a blocky monstrosity, really, isn't it? It's like a crappy, but kind of faster version of Karateka-ish, without any of the trappings. Fighting warrior-ish, Way of the Tiger-ish, because it's kind of ninjas involved. But it's got core issues. So core issue number 1, it's dull as dishwater. And the combat is so crap, it just is no point. 2, it doesn't feel like a fun game at all in any aspect, which means that 3, you won't play it for long. So add to that.
No, you won't.
Now, I am a big fan of Rob Hubbard, and this particular instance, I'm not sure what happened, but the score...
Is this a Hubbard tune?
It's Rob Hubbard, yeah.
What? Oh, my God.
Rob Hubbard did the ninja tune, yeah. So I actually went to the kitchen and checked, and this had actually grated some cheese, this song, into a sandwich. And actually, when I checked out the window, it had caused pigeons to attack each other. There was just dead pigeons everywhere from the... It's like a one of those creatures from the Monster Club had whistled, we spoke about before, and just the pigeons had just exploded. It's just got this really weird...
Hume-gooed.
He got Hume-gooed, or whatever the hell they are, yeah. What's he called? A shadmock. He got shadmocked. So it's got this really awful ninja-esque soundtrack. So orally and visually, this is the equivalent of having to shit out a Duplo Lego brick. That's painful, let me tell you. So I thought this game was unpleasant, and I have to say, as a final kind of hurrah, as an interesting aside, as I was playing this game, I found myself lyrics for the music appearing in my mind. And those were so the music goes da 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 da.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So where is the ninja? I can't see him anymore. Where is that ninja friend of mine? He is a ninja, and I can't see him and that's how it went on. And I found myself just drifting into a coma, really, doing that more than doing anything with this game. Now, I actually had this game, and I have a funny feeling I may have bought it, which isn't the first crazy ninja game I've bought on a whim, but I remember...
You did like your ninjas.
I don't know why, really.
You had a poster up of a ninja, didn't you?
I did have a poster up of a ninja, yeah. I think I was just into that whole... I was quite into the Way of the Tiger stuff, so ninjas kind of appealed to me.
Yeah.
I wasn't into the, buying a sword and costume and terrorizing people. I had friends who did that. That wasn't my bag. But this was a monstrosity of a game. I want to say, was it a Mastertronic Mad or something to do with that?
I think it's Entertainment USA.
Yeah, some weird budget release tile. So at least it was budget, but it got 25% in Zapped. It's more than it deserved because it's utter shit. And what is it with ninja games on the Commodore 64 being so crap? I know it gets better, obviously in 1987 it gets a lot better. Oh, maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But certainly this one is a step in the wrong direction. Ninjas should not be that blocky. And the fighting was crap. Oh, anyway, I hated it. I hated every minute of it. And the music just sent me to another place where I started making up weird lyrics. And that's never good. What about you?
No. Well, I didn't make up any weird lyrics. It is an Entertainment USA, which is from Mastertronic. So make of that what you will. So I'm not sure where this has come from or whatever the back
nasty chronic
is, but who cares? Yeah, it's awfulness. Ironically, I'd never played this.
I thought you would have.
I'd heard a lot. No, I'd heard a lot of people mention it, but Ninja never crossed my path. Maybe it did, and I never saw him. I don't know. Maybe that's what happened. But that does beg the question of this game, right? So yes, you've described the game fine. I'm not going to go into it. You walked through 5 screens. I killed everyone. I had no idea what to do next. Okay, but the problem with this game is it's ninjas in daylight.
Yep.
So the whole outfit fails to be of any use when the sun is out.
You may as well not be a ninja.
So it begs the question, why am I ninja'd out for this? And on the title screen and on that on that loading screen, he's got his top off. And I was quite worried sort of thing because he's still got the mask on at the bottom. So he's going to have horrible tan lines, this ninja. He's going to have a really bad, and I felt a bit bad for him because he's going to get back and take this off sort of thing. And they're going to know what he's done because he's going to have the ninja shaped head mask stuff tan lines. So everyone's going to know it's him as the ninja when they go, who's the ninja who attacked us? And they'll look along. Everyone's got a tanned face apart from this guy who's just got the tan around his eyes. It's not going to go down well for him at this point. But like you and your lyrics, this is what this game did. I was rather thinking about my own story about this ninja being found out because of his lack of suntan.
Yes, exactly.
So, I felt a bit bad for him, really. The game is awful. It's painfully easy and just bad from every angle. I didn't know it was a Hubbard track. That shocks me. I put it's painfully easy and just bad from all angles, especially in front of it, having to play it. I was just like, give me Ninja's day off any day of the week. I've come to borrow a cup of sugar. This was crap.
Do you have a cup of sugar?
I've heard a lot of people talk about Ninja, and I thought, oh, you know what? This might be a hidden treat. No, it's really not. No. It's a bad thing. It's a bad game. I wonder why, I think you probably had this before, we started hanging out together, but there's probably a reason why you never said, oh, have a look at this aid. If you actually owned it.
Pantaloons. None of the images on that loading screen are relevant to the game. Do you get a sword at any point in this game? I don't remember having a sword. There must be one, but I don't remember having it.
I got killed by someone with a sword. Has he got that one at the front's got a sword, hasn't he? But he looks dead old as well, that one at the front.
Well, what cracked me up is the background graphics in this game, because at one point it looks like you're on some kind of ninja tennis court where there's like a fence in the background, and then you've got like playground lines being drawn. And then there's the classic sort of, I don't know what I think they're a gateway, actually. I think they're like a Japanese type gateway, but it looks like one that's been sunk in the ocean. And then it's just crap, crappy.
I'd also
crap.
Look at that. The title, the image, the visual image, the graphic for the title loading screen on the agenda. I'll put this up. I'll put this one when we actually put it out. Look at the one jumping at the back, and look at the arm going upwards. That's bent all kinds of wrong.
Oh, look at his bent, and his fingers are kind of wangy.
Yes, something's happened.
And the other guy's got a nunchuck, which you don't even get, and he's also doing the 2-finger height thing. So
that's what I mean. But notice they've got their tops off, revealing tan lines, which will be their downfall.
Or very hairy backs. I'm not sure which. Maybe both.
Absolutely. The underpeck shadow on the jumping one is very heavy as well.
And did you think, by the way, that when you were wandering around the ninja landscape, finding the idols, the shuriken stars were fine, but the other things looked like hypodermic needles that he was picking up?
Yes. And also, did you notice as well that all you did is you actually sucked them up with the power of your arse cheeks?
Yes. Yeah.
Because you just knelt down, didn't you? You went, hui! and I wanted that sound effect because I wanted to go, hui! And then they floated up. And it's like, it's just ninja wind.
Well, the game was that blocky. I felt that the ninja was a Lego man. I mean, he was borderline Lego, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, ninja suction. Yeah. That's a power I never knew that ninjas had. They could sit down and sort of suck up weapons to be used, sort of pull out. That's where they get all those shurikens from, and they're going, they're just hoovering them up with their ass.
And it's a good job that he can do that, because he picks up plenty of stuff.
Absolutely. I don't know where he stores it all either. It'd be Australian airports would have a field day with him.
He's going to get cavity searched deep.
He really is, especially with those tan lines. They're gonna think he's been up to no good.
Bloody crap is what it is. Let's not dress that crab anymore. It's just crap.
Yeah, ninja, bad. Right, that's ninja. There we go. So what we've got next? Up next is another N game. We've got Nomad. Nomad. And once again, I have been left with stupid overkill of story.
Oh, God, isn't there just for this? Bloody hell.
Oh, my Lord. Right, so what's Nomad? This is, I think it's an ocean game. It got 69
It is an ocean game.
It's £9. Anyway, Cyrus T. Gross is the boss of a galactic underworld, don't you know? His voice is whispered in fear. He's subjugated everything. So the free worlds have sent in Nomad, bad acronym coming up, Nemesis Organization Mobile Attack Droid.
Oh, good Lord.
There you go.
Do you know, I don't thank Isaac Asimov for his intervention into the world of robotic sci-fi. He can bugger off. He did that. He invented all that stuff.
I know. Wasn't there a Pierce Brosnan film called Nomad around this time? I seem to remember there was, about someone in his attic.
Maybe.
I digress. Anyway, you are Nomad. You've got to go and kill the evil despot. So my first note is here, sort of thing, before I get to the horror of the game, was, hang on a minute, I recognise that death sound effect. That's Paradroid.
Yep.
I mean, it's just nicked. It's the same. I was like, that's Paradroid. What's going on? So this game is problematic. in how it plays. It's a flick screen shooter with a really confusing main sprite.
Very
and you never want a really confusing main sprite and control system because it controls tank style. So left and right rotate you 45 degrees in either direction, and up and down move you forward or back the way you are facing. The problem is it's hard from the design of the main sprite to know which way you are facing.
It is.
And I found it really tricky because I don't know why they decided to actually implement this control scheme. You bounce off walls, and when you bounce off a wall, it reverses you, but you're still pressing the same direction, and then you can bounce off another wall quickly because you're trying. Oh my god! Navigating the passageways in this game was one of the trickiest things, and also boring.
Yep.
And what I think happened here was that somewhere along the line, they could have had this control like Paradroid. There's no reason. I mean, they've nicked the sound effects. You might as well nick the control system as well. And it would have been fine, moving left, right, up, down, diagonals. Just let me move like Paradroid moves. This would have made this game 1,000 times better. What it would have done, though, would have made you realise that there's absolutely nothing in this game. There's the odd sprite to shoot, the odd switch to flick. And it's just really, really boring and dull. There's nothing to do, barely. And so that's what I found. So I found the controls. My thought was that the controls had been implemented to negate the lack of content.
I agree.
Because we'll annoy you with the controls so that you don't actually notice. You'll get so annoyed with them and just trying to line yourself up to shoot something or line yourself up to knock a switch and bouncing off the wall when you go to get in a switch. Because obviously it's all digital, and then you flick the switch off and on as you go through it twice because you bounce off a wall. This was, I have vague memories of trying this many, many years ago and not liking it. And I thought, you know what, maybe I was wrong. It looks quite nice from the screenshots. The graphics look a bit colourful, and in that they looked a bit like that when we played Equinox a little bit. I thought it looked similar. It looked from the screenshots similar to Equinox, but played nothing like it and was dreadful in comparison. So I really didn't like this at all because of the control system and the fact that it was in there just to hide. They thought, oh, this is going to be clever, but it wasn't. It was just to hide the lack of content. No, not for me. Not for me. Nomad, no. What about you?
I hated it. I absolutely hated it. But I hated it originally. I actually rented this, I think, from J&M Software in Grimsby back in the day, thinking it might be something. I think because it was Ocean, and Ocean lent a bit of credibility to stuff back in this time. And I found it on replay exactly the same as I found it originally. Confusing sprite animations. Do you know what? Just rotate the sprite properly. Rotate the sprite. Rotate it. Don't add weird transitional animations to its angles, because it made it look all weird. It went all kind of blocky and bigger, and it was weird. I was like, ugh, what's going on? So I've got to rotate this badly drawn sprite around in a sort of inertia-based floaty control system that didn't make a lot of sense. The front and the back of whatever the hell Nomad was, it looked a bit like number 5, I think, the robot from Short Circuit.
Yeah, the title screen was all right with the shot of it shooting stuff, and it was quite nice.
But that was Ocean Seller, wasn't it? That's how they sold games. They sold it, loading screen good, game crap V did that. Oh, maybe it didn't.
Yeah, true.
So the game itself was just floating-ish around a boring maze, clicking on switches and periodically shooting some of the scenery, and boring. I hated it. It was horrible. I hated it back in the day, and I still hate it. It was a mishmash of bad controls, badly conceived sprites, and dull as dishwater gameplay. Another one. Just go away with these boring games. At least it had it's Fred Gray music in this one. So I thought the music in game was crap, and I didn't like it. So I'm no disrespect to Fred Gray, because he's a talented guy. And
I didn't like the music either.
But the music's crapola, and the game felt like it was just, I don't know quite how you describe Nomad. It's a floaty maze-based piece of rubbish. Cybernoid comes along later down the line, and Cybernoid 2, and do this kind of robot round the maze thing. I mean, have we not had enough games yet where you just control a spuriously named robot on a quest to find shit in a thing? No, there's so many of these games at the moment. It's just like, why don't they just call it that? Just Crappy the Robot on a quest for bullshit.
Well, that's like I said, it reminded me of that Equinox.
Yeah, totally.
Whereas where Equinox had, you could sense something with Equinox. It was a step along. This just was like a scraping of someone's boot.
I'm drawn back to the Atari 2600 version of Tank. At least that was an honest game. You drive around with a single sprite in a maze, which is exactly what this was, a single sprite floating around in a maze with varying enemies of some description. Yes, there's inertia and graphics have kind of upped the ante a little bit, but the central conceit is the same. But at least Tank was crap and honest about it, and very innovative for whatever it was, 1980.
Well, I would say this is more like it had those tank controls, but there's also like not much better than Adventure, the original Adventure on the Atari 2600.
You know what? Do not come to my house and take a dump in my bath, and that is exactly what this game did. And I've got to wash that out now and disinfect the bath and do all sorts of stuff, and that's because of Nomad. You dirty little Nomader, get lost. Get lost, Nomad.
No, bad.
Yeah, no bad. Yeah, no bad. Yeah, you'll get mad if you buy this. If you'd bought it and played it, even downloading it on an emulator now and playing it again, you're going to get crazy about it, because as soon as you start to try and rotate that sprite and start going backwards instead of forwards, and then when you try and do a switch and you suddenly push forward and you go backwards, you're like, this is the stupidest control system ever invented on the crappiest sprite ever. So no, not for me. Get lost, piece of crap.
Yep. There we go. We don't like Nomad, and with good cause. Let's move on.
Yes, Mad.
To our... yeah, go away. To our last game of this first section. Graham, delight us with your tales from the Jeep Command.
Moon Buggy clone, this.
Or Moon Patrol, yeah.
Sorry, Moon Patrol, Moon Buggy, yeah, that kind of thing. So, side-scrolling vehicle that has to periodically jump over the craters and pits and the things that get in the way in order to do the thing. So, in this instance, you're a Jeep, sort of a military-style Jeep, across a landscape, and you've got to jump and avoid the craters and the hazards and shoot the flying enemies. And it's all about a little bit of timing and a bit of luck, and it's really, really, really annoying, especially with the bombs that like land and then shoot really fast at you, because it's just annoying.
Oh, God, didn't they? Yeah.
It's stupid and annoying.
It's like a nuclear blast wave outgoing from them.
So the graphics are basic but reasonably rendered. Okay, they're not terrible. They're not like they've gone for multicolour sprites and they've gone for multicolour graphics, so it's got a bit of depth to it, but it's quite nice. It isn't sort of single colour, one colour sprites on a background, which historically these games probably would have looked like. So it has quite a nice look to it. The controls are okay. It controls like the Moon Patrol, Moon Buggy like you'd expect. So joystick controls the jump, and you've got to time those right. For £2, I didn't think this was a bad version of that. The music's really weird, generally, in this. It's kind of odd. And the whole thing just lacked the full price game polish. But it wasn't full price. It was $1.99. And so, as much as it lacks the polish and the music is a bit weird and the graphics are quite good, but the gameplay is very simplistic, it's £2. And does it pass my rainy afternoon test? Which is, stick this on, and would it have passed a rainy afternoon? Yeah, it would. So I quite liked it for that. It was $1.99's worth of game, and I got $1.99's worth of fun out of it. So 82% is kind of an interesting score for it, but it means it scored higher than Rambo and Commando and some others as well. But you know what? It's $1.99, and I'm starting to shift a little bit with my ratings for these things, because I'm trying to think a little bit like that Sunday afternoon logic or rainy afternoon logic, thinking, you know what, $1.99 isn't much to ask for a game. What are you going to get for $1.99? And what you get here is kind of a playable game, familiar controls, quite quickly to get into, and the graphics are reasonable. So I thought it was all right. It's certainly the best of the budget games that we've come up so far here in this episode. So since that's
it's only up against Ninja.
Exactly. So, and you know what? It's $1.99's worth of Moon Patrol, Moon Buggy. So I thought it was all right. What about you?
I'm pretty much on the same page, really. I've put because I'd never played it. I was unaware of it.
No, I hadn't played it.
I've put it's a strange little game. It's a Moon Patrol variant, bouncing a Jeep along, and you leap over bushes and twigs. You avoid holes. You're shooting bombs, and what looked like because not just bombs, is it? You got to shoot killer leaves. I want to show that the Moon Buggy, the buggy you're in, sort of thing, is very, very, does not. It's not got much. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not got much structural integrity, shall we say?
No.
I put like you. The graphics are pretty bare bones. The music's okay, and this is all right for a couple of quid. I'd have got probably a decent amount of enjoyment out of this. I wouldn't hate. I didn't hate it, and I found it quite endearing. There was something weirdly endearing about it, is the word I would kind of use here. It was strange. It's a and I think the reason for that for this is it's a no-nonsense, old-style arcade variant. It is what it is. It straps some different sprites on Moon Patrol, but that's what it is. And there's a reason, and I've noted here, there's a reason why Moon Patrol is remembered, I think, and it's because the core game loop was always enjoyable in Moon Patrol, and this is just more of that. So, Moon Patrol in and of itself, what is it? Moon Patrol, what is it, 81, 82?
Yeah,
it's
early.
Quite old, isn't it? It's early, it's early 80s, but it was always a fun game to play in the arcade. You would always, it was hard. You'd get a bit frustrated with it, but it was always something you'd go back to. I found myself with Moon Patrol. And so you put Moon Patrol in front of me for £2 that looks like, and I'd be like, you know what? I like Moon Patrol. I'm going to play this. And I would, and I did, and I had a good time with this. And I think you bang on with this sort of the rainy Sunday afternoon. You put this on for half hour, an hour, or something like that, and you'd probably be quite satisfied with your time. You know, compared with something like Ninja or something like that, and compared with Nomad for like nearly 4.5 times the price.
No.
This was all right. Yeah, 82% is interesting, but I could see why, because this is an enjoyable £2.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? So yeah. I quite like Dupe Command. It was all right.
It's all right.
Strangely enough, weird. I'd never heard of it, and I'd never played it. But
I hadn't come across it
enjoy
before, but it was all right.
Yeah, there we go. So that's our games for this section. We've just had Dupe Command, we've had Nomad, we've had Ninja, and we had Sanction. So 4 games there. So that's it for this section. We're going to be back in a moment, where we'll be back with looking at what was going on in TV and film in November 1986. So please stay with us. To our sponsor, DavidHearnWriter.com, where you'll find stories influenced by classic games from the Commodore 64 and Amiga. His next book, Escape from the Commodore 64, is coming soon. Sarah doesn't have a clue how to beat games for real. Imagine trying to escape from Targ if you'd never played Mercenary before. However, she meets Nell, who has been trapped for ages, possibly going from Dizzo to Lave. Anyway, together they try and find their way to freedom. Strap yourself in. It'll be more fun than you can have in a Dominion dart. Visit DavidHearnWriter.com. That's David, Hearne, writer.com to find out more. All right, welcome back. Welcome back to film and TV in November 1986. Let's crack into this quickly before the Jovitas get us again. 2nd of November, to mark the 50th anniversary of the start of television broadcasting, Broadcast TV 50, or whatever that means, in which BBT2's entire evening output for the next week is used to show programmes from the BBC's archives.
Good Lord.
How lucky we were. How lucky.
As I've noted here, the BBC didn't even broadcast fully till the late 80s. So in the 50s, there must have been about 2 or 3 programmes a week.
Yeah, and four of them were Muffin the Mule
exactly.
or something.
So what was the great content that was put on the 50th anniversary? And now on BBC, it's the test card, only this time it's upside down. 7 hours.
It would have just been Quatermass on repeat.
Well, Quatermass came out in the 70s, so I don't know.
Yeah, but it's from the last 50 years, isn't it?
Oh, was it the last 50 years? I thought it was from the 1950s. That's why I thought.
No, I don't know. It just says used to show programmes from the BBC's archives. Right. I don't think it means just from the 50s.
Well, wouldn't it defeat the purpose of it being... I suppose it could be a retrospective of the last 50 years. Okay, that makes a bit more sense than my idea, which was just... BBC programmes.
Did you honestly think?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's why I wrote. How dull it must have been. Because did they make a lot of decent TV shows in the 50s? I'm pretty sure they didn't.
To be fair, it can do, because it's Broadcast TV 50, but I think it's just 50 years of telly. The best of 50 years of telly.
Let's face it, there's certain parts of the BBC's output in that time they wouldn't want to rebroadcast, would they? So.
Well, no, and some of it they'd lost, aren't they? Like early Doctor Who.
Well,
and
they
things.
found a lot of those now. If you go on BritBox, some of those episodes have been discovered. I've been watching a lot of Doctor Who, actually, just as an aside, since we're on the last 50 years of the BBC, and some of the early episodes are actually pretty good. I have to say, some of those early Doctor Who's are genuinely. The weird thing is they start off they don't really rely on the special effects at all. It's all about the kind of story and the characters. That's it. Because obviously there isn't a lot of special effects. And in the 50s and 60s and 70s, there wasn't a great deal of ideas around that. So some of the stories and the ideas in them are genuinely quite brilliant. I think if you judge Doctor Who by the modern Doctor Who, and don't get me wrong, there's some good episodes of that. If you really like the stories, some of the stories, the ones that really resonate later down the line with the Matt Smith and the David Tennant, the ones that resonate, Blink and some of those other episodes, just go back in the Doctor Who archives and there's some really good, creepy stories that just don't have the effects to pull it off. But so it is kind of an old guy talking through it, they're a bit like visual radio plays, some of the early Doctor Who's, but I've been enjoying some of them, so, they are what they are. They get crapper as they progress. The more they try and put special effects in, the less good they get, and then they're relying heavily then on the actual character.
It's not the special effects. It's not the special effects that made them crap. It was John Pertwee's Kung Fu.
Yeah, there's actually a proper name for that kind of
crap
martial art that John Pertwee does. I think I've been watching a lot of the very early ones, so the William Hartnell Doctor Who's, and he's, as much as it genuinely looks like he's suffering from early onset dementia through most of those episodes, which he probably was, some of those are really good, and it conveys the idea of a kind of lonely guy better than later. It's only really Tom Baker that really brings the real character and the art of Doctor Who to Doctor Who. But by then they're trying to, I'll tell you what, actually, it's two things. They're trying to dress it up with bad special effects. All right, they are what they are. However, let's just have a little bit of a mini applaud for the BBC Radiophonic Workshop, because the soundtracks in those early Doctor Who's from the late 70s, early 80s are amazing. They're brilliant. Really pioneering early synthesizer stuff. A lot of their synthesizer stuff predates Kraftwerk, and it's a woman, I forget the name of the lady now, genuinely innovative, amazing sounds that she's creating in really complex ways. And the soundtracks for them are genuinely cool. So, watch some of the classic Doctor Who's, Keeper of Trakken and stuff like that. Just watch some of those 70, well, actually I suppose they're very late 70s, early 80s Doctor Who's with Tom Baker. Just check out the soundtracks more than the content, because some of those, the Horns of Nimon and stuff like that, the soundtracks are amazing to them.
They sound very Lovecraft inspired.
I think that there's definitely that to them, because it's monsters from the id, and also monsters from the ether, and non-recognizable things. There's a lot of stuff and mileage in that. I think, without going into a long diatribe about Doctor Who.
What have you been going into?
But I think, just as a final note, I think my take on the whole problem with Doctor Who is that Doctor Who became and remains so about the Cybermen and the Daleks. And there are so many more amazing stories in Doctor Who. They're very much a sideline thing that comes back now and again. There's amazing stories around that, and some of them are way better. I would genuinely challenge anyone to watch The Keeper of Trakken, which is the Tom Baker episode from season 18, 19, I think. Watch the 4 episodes of that, because remember, Doctor Who was different then. So you would have a season of Doctor Who, and it would have conjoined episodes. So there'd be 4 episodes of one, and then it would go to 4 episodes of another sort of part, and it would all actually be still part of the big universe. That'd still link it together. So it wouldn't just be like it does now. It's different to how it does it now. But watch The Keeper of Trakken. It's a Tom Baker episode. It's got the Master in it. The Master's in a different kind of TARDIS, a TARDIS that actually works. So you kind of get the idea of what a TARDIS actually is, as opposed to a police box, because that's not how a TARDIS works. And you start to sort of see, and that episode's genuinely quite scary and creepy in its own way. And the story is completely different to anything else. It's really, really good. So I would recommend it. I would recommend just even if just watch that. Suspend your disbelief a little for the effects.
I will do. Don't worry. So because I always like the I'm never a big Cybermen fan. The Daleks of me, that sort of thing. It was always the more interesting one. So Blink was good, but my favourite of the more recent Doctor Who ones was the one. What was it? The Satan in the Pit, the Devil in the Pit one.
On Marv,
where there's the impossible asteroid or whatever it's called, the impossible moon or something. Yeah. It's that one it's a planet stuck on the edge of a black hole. It shouldn't be there, and then they find the devil at the bottom of it. And that was really good, because it's that's weird, and when Doctor Who does weird, it's kind of a much better thing.
It is. I mean, it's always been a TV show that's been as good as its writers, which is why the last season with Jodie Whittaker,
I never watched it, so I didn't. I tuned out. I think I tuned out when Peter Capaldi came in. Actually,
in all fairness to both of those people who were playing the Doctor, they struggled with the material that was written for them, which in a way Matt Smith and previous Doctors to that never really did. They really struggled because some of the writing for it was amazing. David Tennant had some great writing and some great stories, and later down the line, it just became more. It was about the Daleks, or it was about the Cybermen, or that those are the Doctor Who's big enemies and branding and stuff.
Yeah.
There's been other enemies in there. The Master being one of the key ones, which when Missy, when they invented the reincarnation of the woman that took over the Master role, genuinely brilliant, really played it well. The most recent version, not as good.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've gone on about Doctor Who far too much. Just watch just as a favour to me.
This mention wasn't even about Doctor Who either.
But it's BBC through the 50s and
yeah.
from the 50s.
Okay.
But just go and watch The Keeper of Trakken. Go and watch that and then tell me that you don't like Doctor Who and you think it's all about Daleks and Cybermen, because honestly, even now, it's a brilliant 4-parter. It's ace.
Okay. To be fair, I watched The Twins of Evil on your recommendation, so...
That's a great film.
There you go, listeners. There you go. You have it. You have it. This is what I get. Watch this. It's brilliant.
It's hilarious. It's not brilliant. It's just hilarious.
It is. Yeah. Count. What's his name was crap. Count. What was his name? Count Kronos.
Oh no, it's
Krolok.
No, it's not Krolok or Kronos.
Kremlin.
It's none of those. I can't remember his name. What is
I know. It's going to begin with a K.
Karnstein, I think it is.
Karnstein. I don't begin with a K. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the one with where he's got the guy that is his helper.
Yeah, the mute helper. Yes.
Steaks.
We are escaping. Not you.
Yeah, not you though. You stay behind
and die for us.
They've got steaks.
Steaks, you say? Oh my god! Quick run! Yeah, it's a terrible film.
Oh dear.
Anyway, that could have been on in the 50s. I don't know. Who knows? 15th of November. Let's move along. British television premiere of Michael Crichton's science fiction crime drama Looker on BBC One. I've had a look at this. I'd never seen it. Never even heard of it. It's not a Michael Crichton one that's ever crossed my radar. Are you aware of it? You'd seen it?
I remembered it briefly, but I couldn't remember a lot about it. I just remember it being basically like Future World.
Yeah, I mean, it's got some early CG and stuff, isn't it? Hasn't it?
It does, actually. Yeah, very early.
So Michael Crichton was always a pioneer, I guess, for vision, special effects.
The guy
and
wrote and directed Westworld, and for me, hats off to him for that. Because Westworld's brilliant. Westworld's a brilliant film.
Gave us Jurassic Park, didn't he? Let's face it.
Yes, he did.
Which is Westworld with dinosaurs. He's got a penchant for putting robots in and things he shouldn't do in parks. I wonder what else he'd put in a park. Jeff Capes.
The recent TV series of Westworld is all well and good, but they took a pudding and they put so many eggs in that pudding that it's almost beyond. It's not really a pudding anymore; it's just eggs.
It has risen that show, hasn't it? It has risen to fill the oven.
Yeah, and there's just so much going on, and I actually kind of tuned out of it. Whereas the Westworld movie is actually just a nice, approachable guy goes to theme park. Theme park is full of robots. Robots go ape shit. Has to try and outrun one of the robots in a very Terminator-esque sequence. What's wrong? That's great. Stick to that kind of logic. I think the TV series just kind of stretched the logic beyond belief. So, but either way.
Anyway, there we go. So Michael Crichton giving us some early special effects with something or other. Oh, I've lost my thing. Right, 23rd of November, though, to celebrate. What was this? 1960. This is 23 years later. Weird thing. Channel 4 airs the speculative film The Trial of Lee Harvey Oswald.
Conspiracy.
Now, if this had have happened a few years later, I would have been all over this. I became really obsessed with JFK.
You did.
In the early 90s.
You went mad with it.
I did. I read all the books. I read loads of books on it. Conspiracy, The Plot to Kill Kennedy, the Jim Garrison book. I waded. These are weighty tomes that I waded through.
At which point did you realise it was complete bullshit?
I haven't. I still think it was all. I don't think Lee Harvey Oswald shot him. I've never come out from underneath my tinfoil hat on JFK.
So if you haven't watched any of the recent documentaries on the whole thing, and
I haven't disagreed with them. I don't know.
And you was enjoying your drink on the flat Earth and you hate ball drinks.
I do. I love those. No, it's I became really obsessed with JFK in the early 90s. I think it was on the back of the film because the film's incredible. But once you start researching around the film, you realise there's some issues with this film that are not quite as truthful as you might think they are, Mr. Stone, and problems like that. But I would have loved this at the time. I don't remember seeing it at the time, but I think it's quite interesting that you do this because obviously 23rd November was the anniversary, wasn't it? He shot on the 23rd, I think. Or 22nd, 23rd.
Yeah, something like that.
So, obviously Lee Harvey Oswald never went to trial because he was shot by Jack Ruby coming out.
First rule of assassination, kill the assassin.
Kill the assassin, yeah. It goes back to Hamlet with Guildenstern and Liechtenstein, whatever. No, that's a place, Liechtenstein.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
That's them. Guildenstern and
Liechtenstein.
Luxembourg and Liechtenstein.
That's right. It was Frankenstein and who was it?
Dracula. I don't remember them in Othello. What Othello? It was Hamlet.
Oh God. No.
It was a Shakespeare play. That's all I know. There was a couple of people that had families that didn't get on, and then they had to kill the assassins who loved each other. I might be misremembering these plays. I'm not sure. Right, that's it. That was TV. There wasn't much going on. We had a week of TV from the 50s, and that was it. Boring month.
Boring.
Yeah, films, however, there was stuff going on with films. So on the 6th of November, there was a film called Lamb. Lamb was it's a Liam Neeson film about a priest and a boy, a sort of troubled boy who comes into his care, and they run away and make bad choices according to the write-up. I've never seen it, so I don't know what those bad choices are.
Sounds
Maybe
horrific.
I don't know. Who knows what it is? But he's a priest, so
if you've got
probably...
my lamb, I will find you. I will kill you, and I will cover that lamb in mint sauce and eat it.
I have a particular set of skills that I will find you.
That's right. You forgot he says that. I always think those skills are patisserie, sweet meat.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be, assassination and murder and that, does it? It could be that
I can avoid Lego on the floor. I can step through Lego like it wasn't even there.
I have a particular set of skills. Those skills aren't relevant to anything we're talking about, but I have them. That's all you need to know.
I'm a good plumber.
Yeah, as an electrician, I can rewire a plug, and that could be dangerous for you.
If you've been taken early, and you got taken, and you're like, oh, I really need the loo. You got taken a bit wrong.
Taken's a crazy film as well. I've watched Lamb, I have to say. The early Liam Neeson films are really weird. Remember he's in Krull. Let's not forget that he's in Krull, everyone. Just don't write him off, he's in Krull. So is Robbie Coltrane as well.
Don't make me look at you.
But he is.
No, don't.
He's in there.
He is. I know he is. So's Bernard Bresslaw with one eye, making that terrible deal with the devil.
If you were playing 6 Steps to Kevin Bacon, Liam Neeson's one of the golden people to have in the kind of... Because he's been in so much weird crap that he's bound to be connected to Kevin Bacon in some way. So you can always connect to Liam Neeson with
yeah, probably. I mean, you could probably do it in one step. I'm sure they're maybe in a film together at some point.
There must be.
Maybe Kevin Bacon played one of the wolves in Grey.
I forgot he was in Grey. That's actually a good film as well.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Although that end shot is really weird, where he's just sat there with the wolf.
Yes, it's not...
Not to spoil it for you all, sorry.
Spoilers. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's not that old, but yeah, it's all right. The Grey.
Remember that he's also in Excalibur as well.
He is in Excalibur. Yeah, God. Yeah, there you go.
He is.
But yeah, he's in quite a few. He's in he made just he did Non-Stop, Unknown, all these weird action films that he
just
made.
Became an action hero somehow.
What was that boring walk through the tombstones?
That's what it's called, isn't it? To walk through the tombstones or something like that.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't think it's got the boring bit at the beginning.
It probably has.
And there was that other one, run all night.
Run through the tombstones is the...
Run through
Run through the graveyard.
Tiptoe through the tombstones. That was its original title, but they wanted to toughen it up.
Liam Neeson is angry about something.
There was that. Did you watch that recent one, which is on Amazon, where he's it's called A Good Thief or something?
Vaguely recall it.
It's cheap. It's so cheaply made. He's a bank robber that through the ages that they've never been able to catch, and he gives himself up for this woman. But then he was like a classic bank robber, and he tells these two cops who then, for no reason, become like bad cops. And then go to kill the main guy off and try and steal the money that he's trying to give back. It's a terrible, terrible film.
Sounds crap.
Don't watch that. It was crap. It was really bad. It was really weird as well. It had a terribly weird tone. But Liam Neeson, he was also, and don't forget as well, I mean, if you're going to go with it, he's in Phantom Menace.
Oh, God, he is, isn't he? He's Qui-Gon.
It's Qui-Gon boring.
It's Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon wrong.
Qui-Gon wrong, yeah. Poisonous gas, quick, gas masks.
That's him.
They smell poisonous gas before they see it. It's just all kind of wrong, isn't it?
How do you know it's poison gas? Because you're dead.
Yeah, well, it's just stupid, isn't it? Put it in the tea. Put your poison in the tea, because they just drink that. They don't even question it. Put it in the tea.
Yeah. Anyway, that was Lamb.
Oh, dear.
So that was Lamb. That was out on the 6th November. The a big one, though, 8 days later. Big for us, anyway. And big by name, Big Trouble in Little China, 14th of November.
Yes, this is in the good period of John Carpenter.
Yes, good old Jack Burton and the Pork Chop Express.
Yeah. It's a classic. Well, it's an interesting film, Big Trouble in Little China, in lots and lots of ways. Just because it's a John Carpenter. John Carpenter's a director that is really eclectic. Everyone, positions him as the horror guy, but the guy's made, he's made films that, from Elvis to Big Trouble in Little China. There's a lot of leeway in the distance in there.
And Starman,
yeah. So there's some great John Carpenter films. There's some absolute crap.
Oh, anything post, pretty much anything post In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah, I would put Escape from LA in that dumb wagon.
Yeah, that's post Mouth of Madness.
I thought it was before that, but either way, that's in the same thing. Yeah, I don't really forgive him for Ghosts of Mars because that film's so crap.
No one should.
I've never watched a film with so many people having flashbacks. In fact, I actually almost had a seizure watching Ghosts of Mars. There's actually a flashback because there's so many crossfades in that film. It's bizarre. It's like people just crossfade all the time and they're flashbacks within flashbacks.
Surely the worst film for flashbacks, though, was The Hills Have Eyes 2, the original one, where the dog has a flashback.
Yeah, it's stupid. But do you remember in Ghosts of Mars, there's a flashback to a sequence that happened a minute before?
That reminds me of that crap Leslie Nielsen film Spy Hard,
Yes,
where the guy walks into the bar and go, "We go back so far," and it's just him walking into the bar.
Yeah, exactly. So Big Trouble in Little China, Jack Burton taking on the crazy world of the Three Storms and Lopan, and and a sort of a kidnap story wrapped in. It's just a great bundle of fun, really funny. Kurt Russell on form, great cast, great action, everything about it is great. It just didn't really connect with the audiences, which is a real curse of John Carpenter movies.
Yep. It's a film that became appreciated much later, isn't it?
Yeah, and John Carpenter has a way of being able to the guy can make a film. I mean, he can frame a shot. There's just, the guy knows how to make films in real big, wide screen and really take advantage of the full width of a screen.
He does.
So some of the filmmaking and everything is brilliant. And this isn't wrote John Carpenter by the numbers. It's got a John Carpenter soundtrack again. It's all good. It just, there was a series of films during, is this night classes? I suppose it's classed as 80s, isn't it? It's like late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, it's 86. So, that's why we're talking about it in November 1986.
But I mean, it's like, I'm trying to think when some of the other Carpenter films around this time were all quite good. And then it just goes downhill in a kind of crazy way. So,
well, I think if you track even if you go from, like, off the top of my head, if you go from even Dark Star, so you go Dark Star's good, Dark Star the first one, then Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York, The Thing, Prince of Darkness, Big Trouble, Starman, Elvis, In the Mouth of Madness,
yeah,
They
Eyes
Live.
of Laura Mars.
Did he do Eyes of Laura Mars?
He did Eyes of Laura Mars, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know he did that. Anyway, if you put all that lot together, that's quite a bundle of film.
It is, but let's, if you think about it, so, because you've got Assault on Precinct 13 in there as well.
Oh, Assault on Precinct 13, yeah, I forgot that. That's again
So, Assault on Precinct 13, great. Escape from New York, good, but a bit weak towards the end. Still good. But you've got things like Prince of Darkness, which it's okay, but it's not great. It's not great. It's not great. It's okay, but it suffers from the longest intro sequence of all time. It's like the opening credits for that go on for like 20 minutes. It's like...
Carpenter films always do, though. Carpenter films don't... Nothing happens in most of them for the first 20 minutes.
It's not the fact that nothing happens. It's the fact that the opening credits are still happening 20 minutes into the film. It's like...
Yeah, love it.
They Live is in there, of course. You've got... So there's some really good stuff in there, but there are some weaker links. I've actually kind of tuned out a bit of Halloween. It's all right, I suppose, but
I think watching Halloween now is, it's like what you said earlier on, playing Sanction. It's a film. I'm not saying that similar sort of thing, but I think you can't underestimate the importance of Halloween. And the fact we said this before, we talked about I think we mentioned a Friday the 13th film ages ago, and it was like all the imitators imitated the wrong one.
Well, maybe, but you know what? Halloween is not a slasher movie.
No, it's not.
And yet it's put in the same category of slasher movie, but it's not a slasher movie. And
no,
so,
it has more in common with something like Psycho.
So did films imitate the wrong one or the right one? I don't know. Do I prefer the Halloween sequels or do I like the Freddy and the Jason? I don't know. I don't like the Jason movies that much. But Halloween was never my favourite Carpenter film. I quite liked...
What is your... I was going to ask you, actually, what is your... If you had to pick one, if I had to put you on the spot, which I'm doing right now, The Thing.
The Thing, by a mile, is his most accomplished and best film. Without a doubt, it's The Thing. And probably next to that... I actually quite like Big Trouble in Little China for what it is. I don't like his TV movies, the Elvises, and I don't like the other stuff like that, the Eyes of Laura Mars and stuff like that. Escape from New York is quite good. I like Snake Plissken as a character, but it is just Clint Eastwood. But I do like Snake Plissken as a character, and there are some amazing John Carpenter movies out there, but it's just his later ones aren't very good at all.
No, they're not.
I mean, I get the love because The Inner Mathematics is the most Lovecraftian film ever made that doesn't say it's actually Lovecraftian at all. So it is of Lovecraft, and in that respect, it's probably one of the best versions of that. It's just not a particularly coherent, great film in its longevity. The Fog is a really good film.
The Fog's my close second to The Thing.
But the trouble with The Fog is it loses its way, and it gets, up. It's scary up to a point, but it repeats its scares. John Carpenter tends to do that a little bit, and he suffers from third act problems in almost every film he's in. So in Escape from New York, that someone gets defeated by a boot full of steam from a car. And so it goes on. And there's films where towards the final act or the second or final act, the plot of the film just becomes a little bit lost and the action isn't really there. And Escape from New York becomes quite an interesting chase movie, but the premise for Escape from New York is so good and the world so engineered and believable that it just doesn't feel like it lives up to the premise that it sets. But that said, The Thing is exceptional.
Without Escape from New York, we wouldn't have Metal Gear Solid.
No, totally. Solid Snake and Snake Plissken are mutual bedfellows, without a doubt.
Yeah,
and you can't forget really certain characters. John Carpenter uses the same actors generally across a lot of films, so it's the same people. Buck Flower, for example, plays the drunk in at least sort of 3 or 4 of his movies. I like The Fog, and it's because The Fog has got a genuinely kind of scary vibe, and it is quite creepy. And I like Halloween to an extent, but I can't stand Donald Pleasant's character in it because he just hangs around doing nothing really a lot. But there are films that just, when he's really flexing his muscles a bit, The Thing, Big Trouble, Assault Precinct 13 isn't a bad old movie, but that it's kind of a Western remake. I always feel like John Carpenter wanted to make a Western and never did. And because some of his soundtracks sound a bit like that and some of the thematics of his films, but he just never made one, which is odd because I think he probably always wanted to. Later down the line, I think some of them, Prince of Darkness is just wrapped in such a convoluted story.
That's what I love about it.
It just becomes
really
disjointed, and I think the problem there is you've got bad actors. The acting performances are generally quite poor, with the exception of some of the ghouls and some of the so some nice touches here and there.
The leading man is a bit of a poor man's Tom Atkins.
Well,
isn't he?
It's just the whole thing is just a little bit weak, and you don't feel for characters that you don't really know. And there's just just Donald Pleasance is in there again to provide that kind of creepy. It's in the world and the cheese kind of creepy vibe. I don't know. The Thing is definitely my favourite Carpenter movie so far. The Ward was quite interesting, his more recent ones, and
it's the only one of his. Oh, Christine as well.
Christine, I'm not a big fan of either, but it's beautifully
shot. It's
shot.
Not brilliant, but it's one of
it's beautifully made.
It's nicely shot. So. Some really nice shots of the car.
Is your favourite The Thing as well? Then just out of
yeah.
Makes sense because it's the most accomplished, solid film of them
it's
all.
It's The Thing followed by The Fog, followed by In the Mouth of Madness.
That doesn't surprise me because you like the Lovecraftian thing. I think In the Mouth of Madness suffers from being too compartmentalized and not quite knowing quite the direction it wants to go. But it's still pretty good for a Carpenter movie.
Yeah. Well, there we go. That's your Carpenter Weekly. Next week we have Plumber Weekly, and then Electricians Weekly following that. Yeah. Next week we talk all about making barrels.
Cooper.
The Cooper times.
Cooper.
19th of November. I'm not even going to pretend to know what this is. It's Jubiaba.
Jubiaba.
It's I can tell you what it is if you want. It's a French-Brazilian film based on the homonym novel by Jorge Amado.
Right.
There you go. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about that.
No.
What I can let you know, though, is that on the 28th of November, we had Labyrinth.
I watched this for this podcast. I rewatched it.
Did you?
I did, yes. Only yesterday.
I didn't get time. I haven't seen this for ages. What was your takeaway then from watching it again?
What, aside from the Bowie
apart from
bulge.
What you've written here, which is bulge.
He's got too much bulge. He reveals his bulge in a terrifying way to an animatronic dwarf, and that's just unpleasant for everyone. Do you know what?
Magic bulge.
So, here's a couple of things you may or may not know about Labyrinth. So, Labyrinth was a box office failure. Do you know that?
Yes, I do know that, yeah.
And it actually broke Jim Henson. He actually had a nervous breakdown, basically because of Labyrinth. because Jim Henson put his heart and soul into Labyrinth. So this was a combination of a number of different things that came together. So Jim Henson's workshop, the script was Terry Jones. It wasn't actually, the end script wasn't Terry Jones, but Terry Jones from the Monty Python-esque era originally penned the sort of beginning of the early version of the script. And you can sort of tell because there's sort of Monty Python-ish tonalities to it a little bit. But the end result was that David Bowie was brought in as Jared, and therefore it needed songs because he's a singer. And I think the film morphed a little bit out of the control of what it was originally set to be. And it's still quite a nice, charming film. And later down the line, it became kind of a cult classic. And I think because of certain aspects to it, the kind of camp, gothic, weird performance of David Bowie, the fact that David Bowie's in it, and the fact that some of the animatronic puppets in it are astonishing. Do you know, Hoggle, who is sort of the main dwarf that Sarah, the sort of protagonist, who's on the quest to find her baby and the brother that's been kidnapped by the goblins because she wishes it away. Hoggle is a miniature, I think it's a woman inside the costume, but the actual face is completely animatronic, all of it. So, and it wasn't linked to the person in the costume. So she mouthed the words, but everything else was handled by 5 people on set to animate his face according to the requirements of what he said. So that gives you a kind of idea of the level of craftsmanship that went into Labyrinth. So the character of Ludo was sculpted by a really now famous sculptor. You'd have to Google all of this stuff because I can't remember all the names of the various people involved. But if you look at some of the famous sculptures he's done these real, look like real life heads and things that are laid on sort of plinths and stuff. It's just the people that brought this together were a bunch of really, really talented puppeteers, vocal artists, and animators of some description or another. And I think Jim Henson felt that this film should have been a success because it's got Muppets in it, essentially, and they're doing cool stuff, and there's songs, and there's everything, and yet it just didn't reach into audiences, and I think it got slated by the critics, or some of them. And I think the reason is because the film peters along and doesn't really have much peril other than a baby in peril. Periodically. Other than that, Sarah doesn't really encounter anything in the maze, in the labyrinth, that really challenges her. And so it just it gets a bit dull. And then David Bowie walks around cocking everyone. So,
Sorry. I wasn't expecting that.
He's just cocking. It's full on, pant cock. It's just, tights and a bulge. And that is like a proper bulge he's got on. So there's nice touches. I was always intrigued by certain things. Do you remember that?
Don't say nice touches after that.
I don't want to touch that. So the songs are kind of nice and twee. I think Bowie wrote about 4 songs for this. The puppets are all good. It's got really early CG in the owl in the opening credits. That's the first full CG creature that looked like an actual creature or something like that. Amazing stuff. And I really, really was mesmerized by the guy that could swizzle the balls. Which is ironic for it being David Bowie's character.
Jesus Christ.
Because he could, David Bowie presents himself with a massive bulge and juggles his balls a lot in this film. He does. That's what he does. He's Jared. He juggles balls. And the dialogue in this film is quite interesting the way it's written. But he just does that swizzly thing with crystal balls. And it's got very young Jennifer Connelly. I think she's 16 when she made this, or at least the character's 16.
Yeah.
So became good later on. And then the rewatch, I have to say, I like Labyrinth. I always have. I get the humor, and I think you have to like. I was brought up on Muppets, Sesame Street. Jim Henson's been one of the key figures of my upbringing in the sense that I was addicted to the Muppet Show and all that kind of stuff. So this is just more Muppets for me, and I totally get it. But I think the sadness is a little bit that many people didn't.
Well, I think my main problem with Labyrinth is I'm not a big fan of the songs, and there's too many of them. So
yeah.
So it's that Disney problem. It's like, stop singing, please. You're not a musical. It doesn't feel like a musical. So because it doesn't feel like a musical, and because it doesn't have quite the knockabout humor, should we say, or the knockabout stuff that some of the Muppet movies are. So I really like Muppets Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And even though that's got songs in, I really like that. But it feels they fit more for some reason. I don't know whether it's for some reason those songs fit better into that. This just felt like, oh, we've got Bowie, so we better have some songs, and it just
it's exactly what it was.
Yeah, and I just don't like them. I just don't think it fits. No. And I think this film would have been, I don't know, I've not watched it for ages, but I think even at the time I seem to remember watching it and going, it's all just a bit too twee and a bit too, there's just not enough, I wanted it to be a bit darker.
Yeah, and I think that's you've hit upon one of the big problems with Labyrinth is that it really tries to be funny. but it's not. No, and I think the material needs to be treated with less levity and a bit more seriousness for it to come across as something that is more of a scary challenge for Sarah as opposed to just, jaunting around a maze with a load of Muppets asking her stupid questions.
I wanted something more in tone with the Dark Crystal.
Well, this is the next film after the Dark Crystal, isn't it?
It is exactly, and that's what I was kind of expecting. I was expecting that, but what I got was more Muppets.
Well, that was Jim Henson's aim, though. He didn't want to make another Dark Crystal. He wanted something that had more appeal.
But for me personally, my personal taste is I much preferred Dark Crystal. Way prefer. I love the Dark Crystal.
But you are a Skeksis. I know you don't look like it now, but over time, you've been. It was always quite Skeksy for want of a descriptive term.
I have a massive hunchback and I walk around sort of thing eating frogs from goblets.
You got a long beak and you do drink the essence of gelflings when you get them, and now they're rarer, obviously.
I can't get enough of them, and you can't get a lot of them in Lincolnshire, which is annoying sort of thing. I've asked at every pub I can find. I thought there would be plenty of people around here, but they're like,
it's the sign they put on the front. Gelflings sold out. And oh, damn it! I was going to go in there.
It is, yeah. It's you just can't get the HGV drivers to drive them around.
Can you imagine a pub that was Labyrinth based? It'd just be all bulgy and cocky.
You'd be sat down sort of thing. There'd just be something poking you in the back. Every seat would have a thing poking out the back of it. You'd be like, oh, what's that? Oh, that's the Bowie seat.
And I'm pretty sure that it was Iman Bowie watched this film and she's like, I'm having him. I want him. I want the Goblin King. Right now,
I want to gobble. There's another word. There's something else with the word gobbling in there.
There is. So no,
I'm not saying it.
So
though.
You're not a fan of Labyrinth, or you are? I didn't.
Not really. No, I never have been. I just find it a bit. Like I said, it's not one thing nor the other. Yeah. It's in a strange middle ground.
It's in the Return to Oz camp for me a little bit.
Yeah. That's a really good call, actually. Yes, it's not perilous enough. It's not dark enough. It's not light enough. The Muppets are funny and light, and even with Michael Caine's great in Christmas Carol. I'll come back to that one because that's probably my favourite Muppet film.
Yeah,
and that treads that works. It's gone the right way. This sits somewhere in a no man's land of, and it's I think maybe it's the Terry Gilliam influence because because Terry Gilliam would make things like Time Bandits, and then even he would mess up as well with things like Baron Munchausen, which is a bit of a mess of a film.
Is. I quite like it,
but has some great moments in it, and it's not terrible, but a massive flop, wasn't it? Like obviously like this, but you can see the Terry Gilliam influence in this, but then you can also see we don't actually want to be that dark. And I imagine that when you think of Terry Gilliam and things like Holy Grail and stuff like that, which have got these dark moments in amongst all the absurdity. It needs to be like that, and it's not, and I don't know. And even back then, I was like, I watched it. I think I went to the cinema to see it because I thought, what? I think I was traumatized by the bulge, but in amongst all that, I just never really got on with it.
We haven't come across the Commodore 64 game of Labyrinth yet, have we?
We have not. That will be coming up, I think, in the next few months, probably.
Which features the word adumbrate, which threw me for a long time because I wasn't sure what that meant.
But what does it mean?
Well, that's Google for you. That's a Google mission.
You could just tell me.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Right.
I know it features that word.
You knew. Maybe they spelt something else wrong.
I'll Google it for you right now. Hang on. Adumbrate.
Oh, do it. Just while I mentioned the last film, you get on with that. Because the last film is the 28th November. On the same day as Labyrinth, we've got another film about small things growing around. We've got Critters.
I was never a big fan of Critters.
It's one of those mid-80s.
It's 80s to the core, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in that, what was the other one? Ghoulies.
Yes, it's in that same sort of camp for me.
So it's little creatures.
Krites, aren't they? He calls them.
Yeah, krites. Little creatures in a small town.
Gremlins.
Biting people and eating people like gremlins. Yeah, but on the back of Gremlins. Yeah. It was all on the back of that. So it was it's a sort of knockabout comedy horror, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
So it's not terribly horrific. It's not terribly comedic, but it's kind of funny in some stupid way. It's midtown America, small town America. I have no real, I don't mind them. They're stupid. They are what they are. They're mid-80s stupid horror films. You take them or leave them. Critters, Ghoulies. What was the other one? I don't think it was Little Creature, Chud.
Chud, that's right.
Sort of lump it in with Chud, cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
That's right.
And then the sequel, Chud the Bud.
And this is the same guy that made Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he had a kind of, he could tell a visual story. It was kind of nice visually.
Oh, yes, Stephen Herrick. I've heard of Stephen Herrick, yes.
And by the way, adumbrate means to foreshadow. A future event.
Well, there you go. I've learnt something today. Not been a waste. What else did we do? What else did he do? He also did Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Yeah, exactly.
The Mighty Ducks, The Three Musketeers, Mr. Holland's Opus.
Quite a few.
He also did the Time Machine by Black Sabbath.
Oh, okay. Well, the music video.
I think, yeah, sure, yeah.
How bizarre.
He did that.
How bizarre.
I know. The life of a jobbing director, I guess.
Was Chris's last film? Oh, no. It was Bill and Ted's.
No, it was his first film.
Bill and Ted's one.
Chris is his first film.
So what was his last film? Was he still operating? Oh, he is.
Yeah, he's still going. Working on, well, the last things he did were MacGyver.
He did, Afterlife of the Party in 2021. So he's still rocking it.
He is. Oh, yeah, Afterlife. And he's filming something called Doggone at the moment.
Good old Stephen Herek. He's a good guy. He's one of the greats. But
he did Rush Hour as well in an episode of that Hawaii Five-0, working in TV most of the time.
Well,
anyway, there you go.
Critters, not my thing. I didn't dig it. The thing is, it's something I should probably like, and I don't.
I think one of the things to note here, though, is how many sort of more established. Because I mean, if you look at Three Musketeers, Mr. Holland's Opus, these are decent-sized Hollywood movies. There's quite a number of these people that cut their teeth on these cheap.
Yeah.
Cheap sort of budget horror films. Even if you look at, we spoke about Aliens and James Cameron with like Galaxy of Terror and Piranha 2.
Yeah.
These people, they cut their teeth on these early things. And a lot of them, I don't know if a lot of them came through Roger Corman and stuff. And, I think that angle. But people like, what was it, Jim Muro? Who did loads of Steadicam and stuff and became a director. He did Street Trash, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
So I imagine there's quite a few of these directors that started off with making these sort of low budget mid-80s horror films that sort of went on to decent careers in Hollywood, and probably a lot of them that never did. And on that sad note, I believe that's pretty much it, isn't it, for our film and TV section?
Yes, we've bulged out.
So, absolutely. So that section definitely bulged in the middle, or bulged towards the end, with, and if you can find your way out of Labyrinth,
yes,
don't trip over the bulge.
You will. He'll dangle that in front of you.
Bowie sausage.
While he's juggling his 3 balls.
Absolutely. Is it for Cumberland or Bowie?
Actually, to be fair, it would make a good intro to Grange Hill, wouldn't it? Where just Bowie's bulge goes into that shot.
Yeah, but you'd have to do it in the voice of Bowie, though. Bow.
What's Grange Hill is Grange Hill. I'm terrible at Bowie.
Yeah, nobody's good at Bowie. Right, there we go. That's your film and TV. Let's move on because we've got more games coming up after this short break. See you in a bit.
Shout out to our sponsor, davidhearnwriter.com, where you'll find bargain books, ebooks, and audiobooks. Coming soon, Dave's next book is called Escape from the Commodore 64. Set in Australia in the 80s, Sarah and Nell find themselves trapped inside the Commodore and must escape. Imagine finding yourself as the sheriff of a Wild West town, where it seems everyone wants a gunfight. How will they get out alive? Say, isn't that the Mexicali kid? Dave's podcast pick is Sanxion, which he was terrible at because it required multitasking, 2 bits of the screen to watch. Still, it's top shelf stuff, and he loved Hubbard's Thala music.
Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Okay, welcome back to this last section where we've got some bits and bobs. I think we've actually got, surprise, we've got some Crapverts, I do believe.
Woo!
As well. Just a couple, but we've got some. We've found some. All it takes, yes. So what we got first up? It's, in brackets, Cleanup Time. Another budget title, £1.99. This gets cracks in at 75%. So what's its cleanup time? Well, this is an odd game. I know we say this about a lot of games, but this is another odd concept. So what did this put me in the mind of? All right, so we're in single screen arcade style gameplay here, and it reminded me kind of visually and sonically of Super Pipeline. I don't know if you got that.
Yeah,
maybe there was some kind of Super Pipeline-esqueness of it to it. But it also, because you've got a simple task to do, a simple menial task. Like Super Pipeline, you're fixing pipes, and in this, you're just brushing up detritus, rubbish, whatever it is, and you're bothered by objects that from the sort of environment that patrol around you. This also reminded me of the, I don't know if you remember that old ancient Space Panic
Yes,
what's considered like the first platform game, and things like Burger Time.
Yeah.
Because essentially it's a single screen, you climb up and down ladders, doing things on the platforms, you don't jump, and there are objects moving around. So you play a cleaner, and you have to move up and down the platforms, they're connected by ladders, and you just got to sweep up the mess left on the floor. You can fire left and right while you're moving to shoot the enemies that patrol, and you have 3 smart bombs, which seems a really weird addition to a game like this, I thought. If you clean up all the mess that's on the floor, you can progress to the next level. If you do it quickly, you can do it quite quickly and move on. If you leave it over time, then the enemies patrolling create mess on the floor, meaning it takes longer to progress, and so on and so forth. There are 8 levels. It's all right. You get a weird interstitial cutscene from when you complete level 2. Did you get that? Did you get that far? Because if you get through level 2, there's a cutscene in which the little guy wanders across the screen you're controlling. He complains of eating too much, bends over with his ass towards the screen, either farts or shits himself. I'm not kidding.
I don't think I ever saw that.
This actually happened. I may have. I
got to level 2.
Sure.
When did this occur?
It was in between 2 and 3, so it's when you complete level 2.
That explains it. I didn't go past the second level.
So I couldn't tell which, and as I noticed, sort of thing, eating too much. We've all been there at our age, but it's just what it is, I guess.
Pointed my ass to those people and just shit on them. Yeah.
Well, it is one of those things.
It is what it is.
And at that point, I actually said, "It's clean-up time."
To which your loving partner was just, again.
She was. Yeah, well, it's not my fault. I'm old.
She's actually laminated her hands now.
There's just an outline of her on the wall. It was that much forcefulness.
It was that much of a blast. It took off her eyebrows.
She looked like the well-tanned ninja from Ninja. She had a mask on at the time.
Oh, the poor lady.
Oh, you're so well-tanned. It's not tan.
The nunchucks wouldn't have helped that.
Anyway, there's various creatures move about the platforms. You can shoot them or whatever. It's not too taxing, and it's quite an early. It feels like an early 80s arcade game. And I could really see it. It's kind of what we said with Super Pipeline to some degree.
Yep.
There's some nice touches. You can play 2-player, Mario Brothers style, playing on the same screen. Weirdly enough, I didn't quite know. You can select your difficulty by moving your guy along, can't you?
Yeah, at the beginning, easy to difficult, yeah.
Easy to hard. So it's like you have some. I wondered if there was actually that granular level of control over the difficulty, or whether it was actually. Doesn't really matter what you do. It's all just, there's no difficulty, it's just whatever. The graphics are nice and chunky. The sound is just loads of weird little recognizable tunes. There was another game we played recently, and I can't remember what it was, that had loads of weird tunes that were recognizable. It might have been that Time Tunnel.
Yeah, similar.
It's similar to that. I mean, to be fair, for £2, this was all right. I didn't mind it. Again, if I'd have played this on a Sunday afternoon, I was going by your, rating and recommendation, I'd have been all right with this. I think, I don't mind these sort of simple single-screen arcade games when they're done all right, with a little bit of sense of humour and weirdness and cutscenes where you shit yourself. I'm all for that. That would have made me laugh like a drain back in 1986. What about you? Did you enjoy your time with cleaning up the when we last met and I said to you it's clean up time?
The irony of the fact that one of the characters is called Otto and the other characters is called Boban. So
Boban?
Yeah,
is that what they're called? I never looked.
Yeah, Bobban, Boban. So he's full of Bob. He's kind of blocky, and the audio.
Chunky.
The audio I've described as a screwdriver in the ear, but but it follows very simple arcade platform logic, and it just sticks to that. And because it sticks to that, and it doesn't try and search the furniture for the story and dress up the story with all of this stuff, it's just 2 guys who have got a cleaner, a hotel before a certain period of time and got to go through the levels. I think there's 8 levels.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the premise. It's simple game logic. And we said it many times, simple done well works better than anything else. So I thought blocky graphics, even though they were blocky, but they were kind of arcade-inspired blocky, so they worked still.
They were with Super Pipeline.
Yeah, there was Super Pipeline. There's a Mario-esque logic to this game and a pipeline logic. It's a better 2-player. And it's just simple, clean up the stuff, work your way around, avoid the stuff. I like the way you pick your difficulty. I thought it was quite interesting. I'm sure it didn't make much difference, but I quite like the fact that if you wanted 2-player, you did pull the joystick down and a upside-down player appeared underneath. And
yeah,
so
it's quite
just
nice.
Little touches like that make a it make it more arcadey. And there was a weird Mario-esque. It reminded me a little bit of, remember Mario Hotel on the CDI? I know, but it's the game that Mario fans don't talk about. But it just that kind of platform logic reminded me a little bit of that. I thought it was for $1.99 again. The Sunday afternoon test, I'd have happily sat there for a couple of hours just trying to work my way through those 8 levels. For $1.99, it's pretty damn good. And the enemy logic and the graphics are what they are in these platform games. It adhered to the simple rules of the arcade. And because it did that and didn't try and over-egg the pudding and kept it simple, it didn't head down Nomad Avenue. It just stayed on its clean-up time street where the logic was fun and simple. Just keep it simple. We say this all the time. We've said it, I'm sure you still do, to games development students all the time. Just keep your game logic simple. Do simple brilliantly, because that's the best way. To do simple brilliantly is better than doing complicated badly. And this game is a really good example of that. Simple game done simply. Stick to your logic, keep it nice and short and simple and playable, make the difficulty based around the fact that you've got to avoid stuff. No problem.
I uttered these very words this week to my students this week when they were asking, like, why can't we put this in the game? I went, look, Mario is run, sprint, and jump.
Yeah, and that's before you turned around and then fart blasted them against the wall.
It's clean-up time.
It's like,
Mr. Mills.
Where are my eyebrows?
Sir, what have you done?
No. Sorry, Peter, but you're going to need new eyebrows, and B, it's going to take you at least 2 or 3 hours to work your way off that wall.
Absolutely. And also, you're really going to need a toothbrush to get it out of the cracks in that keyboard.
That's it. My arse wax is like a seal.
A shield of steel.
It's like silicon sealant. Once it's on you, it ain't coming off so easy.
Absolutely.
Washing up liquid and petrol might get that off.
People ask me round when their bath's leaking, and I just move along the edge.
So that was my take on it. Anyway, I enjoyed that. I don't enjoy being shit on or anything like that. You know, that's not a territory or a place I want to be. And I'm thinking I'm going to buy you a 5 kilo tub of Swarfiga now, just in case you need it.
To be fair, I have nearly run out of the last lot you bought me.
Well, you need to distribute that to your students before you grease them to the wall with your arse wax. And I'm thinking like proper Arak style. You know, it's like a sound, it's like the sound of I don't know, like a pump when it's almost out of that kind of a foosh sound. And then there's just students like alien
like,
style.
I was going to say,
Kill
it's like
me.
when Dallas and stuff is,
Kill me.
It's clean up time.
Kill me.
I just came here for a degree.
I don't want to know what you shoved down their throats to lay an egg. So let's end it there.
I think we really should. Let's go on to a really bad dog egg.
Oh, God. I forgot.
There you go. It's clean up time. It's a good arcade, simple fun. There you go. £2. It's all right. Let's move on. This next one, you can have this one. £10, 60%. Asterix and the Magic Cauldron. Asterix and the Magic Cauldron, Graham. Tell us all about it.
So you either like Asterix the Gaul or you don't. And Asterix the Gaul is in the same realm for me as Tintin. So lots and lots and lots of books about characters I didn't really give a shit about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so Asterix, in this particular adventure, Getafix is looking for a heroin dealer. No, he's not really. That's a totally different Getafix. Getafix is...
Well, it would explain the Magic Cauldron.
Well, he has in all the episodes of... Because if you know Asterix well, Asterix and Obelix, I think, is his sidekick. So it's Lenny and George, essentially. Asterix, to beat the Romans who have invaded Gaul, goes to Getafix and he creates this magic potion in his cauldron, which gives him super strength and lots of fun happens because he beats the Romans. That's the story of Asterix, repeatedly with various different, Roman emperors and leaders that he fights. In this particular version of the story, the cauldron's been broken and the pieces of the cauldron have been distributed all over. And so, in order to brew the magic potion so that Asterix and co can save the village, the Gaulish village, and make a stand against the Romans, he has to reassemble the cauldron by finding the pieces. So cue the game, which is wandering around trying to find pieces of the Cauldron to assemble it, to get fixed, to get the potion, to beat the Romans, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is a Melbourne House game, I believe.
Mm-hmm,
and Melbourne House have developed this really weird style. So they make kind of really weirdly blocky games. And so this is a kind of blocky game. And you kind of want... Now, it's blocky and it takes place over, I think... I'm not sure how many rooms there are. I don't think there's a great, massive amount of rooms, but it takes time to... Every time you go into a room or a screen or a next left or right or up or down on the map, it draws it. So it draws the trees and the kind of huts and the kind of Gaulish village or the Roman village or the woodlands or whatever you're in. And it takes time to do that. It's kind of slow. And it's so... Last Ninja did the same thing. When you went to various locations in Last Ninja, it drew the kind of backgrounds, but it did it kind of speedily because it was more path and less leaves and twigs and berries and stuff. This one has enormous parts of the scenery drawn in, so so it actually becomes a massive detraction from the gameplay. So you can't just run around doing stuff because you can't. Because the minute you go off the screen to go somewhere else, it's draw the screen and then next screen and draw the screen, and it's so slow. So I think there's about 50 odd screens you've got to explore to try and find these pieces. And I can tell you, even navigating between 5 of those screens is a real pain in the ass. And there's different locations, and there's periodically you're attacked by different creatures. I think there's wild boar. Ironically, today it was announced that poor Shakira was attacked by, the pop star Shakira was attacked by wild boar in a very similar incident to what we're describing. So the game is essentially wandering around, picking stuff up and trying to find the Cauldron pieces, in a game that draws slowly each screen as you appear. So I think that's a problem. I think the level drawing became a problem for me. When you actually find a piece or go into combat, it zooms in a kind of really weird way. So it zooms in, but it zooms in to make it even blockier and worse. So it just becomes like, it's maybe a little bit faster, but you sort of get an extra blocky version of what you were trying to do. And the fighting is just stupid. Now, fighting and the combat thing is a huge part of the Asterix world. What I don't get is, because this is like an almost reverse Way of the Tiger. Way of the Tiger took the combat part and made it shit. This takes all of the aspects of Asterix and makes them shit. And I wasn't even a big fan of Asterix to begin with. So the one crazy thing out of all of this is that even its blocky representation, they kind of look like Asterix. So the kind of look is there, but it doesn't really inspire you to want to explore the levels because of the slowness. It doesn't really feel like you're really progressing much. The music is jaunty, but it repeats really quickly, and so it gets really annoying. And in the end, it's so bloody annoying and so slow and drawy that I felt like it had real optimized code issues, and it suffered from massive overcomplication and without simplifying, because it's a simple logic of a game wrapped in something that just inevitably ends up frustrating you and getting you angry. I think 60% was generous for this, because this is a crap game at the end of it all. So I would have given this a lot lower. I would have given this like for $9.95, 30s. It'd have been the 30s, maybe even the 20s for me. What about you?
Yeah. Well, hey, wise guy. Wise guy, you might recognize those graphics and why they're drawn like that. That's because
God,
it's me again.
It's Mugsy.
It's the same people who did Mugsy.
Oh no!
Ah, yeah. Did you not notice? As soon as it loads up, it's the Mugsy drawing routine.
Asterix, you mook.
Yeah. So if you play this in the style of Mugsy, it becomes much better.
Oh, God,
so
no,
hey, I'm a Gaul. Oh yeah. When I wanted to grow up, I wanted to be a Gaul. Oh, dreadful. It's Asterix. But because it's from the same people as Mugsy, they use clearly the same tech, and that's why the screen is so slow to load, because it's that drawing technique they got.
I hate it.
Yeah, it's so boring and so slow. You wander from screen to screen, waiting age for stuff to load. I've got better things to do with my times than this. I've got I've got people to plaster to walls. Maybe you need to be a crazy Asterix fan or something to really give this any time. But I'm not. I'm not like a
no.
Unlike, and this is where these games differ. I'm not a huge Dan Dare fan either, but I enjoyed my time with the Dan Dare game. Yeah. I'm not a massive Asterix fan, but I certainly didn't enjoy my time with the Asterix game, because this is essentially another flick screen Wanderathon with boring pop-up fights, which technically are weirdly, they do make it blocky, but they're quite clever in the blocky, this top-up, the fighting in a window style thing. It's a bit Frankie Goes to Hollywood-y sort of thing. Some, those kind of things are all right. Technically, okay. But each screen is like watching a screen for a text adventure draw up, like Mugsy, or like The Pawn, or like any of those kind of games which do it really slowly. And whilst you don't mind it so much in those, because the pace is all different, and it's part and parcel of it, waiting for like The Hobbit, or Lord of the Rings, whatever. This is an arcade adventure. This is supposed to have a bit of pace, and it just kills it. It kills the game dead. It's just, I was like, what am I waiting for? I've got other things to be doing. Like, eating a Twix or anything to... I didn't like it.
Playing on the popularity of the Asterix books, isn't it? And
well, yeah, I mean, but...
They were niche, I think.
I think they were. I'm not sure. I knew of Asterix. I was aware of Asterix, but I'm not sure that Asterix was as big a deal over in the UK as it was elsewhere in the world.
You would say that because he came round to your house as a Gaul and, trashed your bedroom.
Yeah, he did, but he did it really slowly. And every time he did anything, he had to be redrawn.
Exactly. He moved into your bedroom and it drew itself. And you were like, why is my bedroom doing that? My bedroom doesn't normally draw my bed. What's going on?
And then when he walked towards me, I found myself popping into a smaller window, but it became even blockier. It was a really weird episode in my house. I think I had too much on the magic cauldron at that point.
You definitely had. Get a Fix had been definitely getting you a fix or something.
Oh dear. I didn't like Asterix. I thought it was crap. And I'm guessing you did too, really, didn't you? So, just what are they doing? What are they doing at Melbourne House? We know what we've got coming up. We loved Way of the Exploding Fist. What have they done since?
Yeah. Yes, that's the
What's
question.
What's going on over there?
It's because the people that made Where the Exploding Fist weren't hired again to make Asterix and the Magic Cauldron.
Well, no, he's working on thingy, he's working on Fist 2, and we
God. No. I tell you what, a question I would ask actually, just before we leave Asterix, and I'm asking just the listeners of the podcast and the people who, and you're in a forum, aren't you? And the people in that forum who are very well informed. This cannot have been, because Asterix is a French thing, isn't it?
I believe it is French.
So
yes.
I would ask, globally from our global listeners. So we've got listeners in Australia, we've got listeners all over the world, which is amazing. So thank you for everybody listening. But I'm just wondering, did Asterix reach you in your parts of the world? Was it called the same thing? Was it Asterix and the Cauldron of whatever the hell it is? Or in Australia, did they change the name of Asterix to some other name? Because Asterix and the Magic Cauldron sounds great here, and just as an additional extra, I actually really liked the alternative to Asterix, which was, believe it or not, this is true, there was a series of stories with a character called Is-No-Good, which was a guy that wanted to be a caliph in the Middle East instead of the caliph. It's basically Asterix, but it's a guy that's sort of in the Middle East, and he was called Is-No-Good. So go and check that out. I'm just saying.
Okay, I'll read that while watching these William Hartnell Doctor Who programs. Well, the Tom Baker one, sorry,
Yeah,
Tom Baker. All right, yeah, but I'm not going to play Asterix and the Magic Cauldron ever again.
No, it's utter crap.
Yeah, it is. So let's move on from that lot. To our penultimate game of the episode, which is Deactivators. So this is a full price game again, $9.95. This got 82%. Weird game, this. I get lots of weird games. This is a strange thing. So let me try and describe Deactivators to you. This sees you controlling a series of droids in monochrome rooms to find and deactivate bombs that have been strewn around a building that you're responsible for guarding. Kind of Five Nights at Freddy style. You kind of watch through security cameras or something. I don't know. There's probably a plot to this, but I'm sorry. After the plots for Sanction and Nomad, I'm not going down this plot nonsense anymore. So I've had enough of these plots. So there may be something here. There's something about bombs getting scattered around a building. Anyway, you got to look through these screens, and in these screens there are robots, and you got a map at the bottom. So, but you can see two rooms at once. So. And so you can move between them if there's a door, and you can drop through holes, and you can pick up the bombs, and there's pieces of circuit board scattered around, and you can throw the bombs up through holes in the ceiling, and then there's other droids about that have had their brains scrambled, the AI scrambled, so they will attack you and kill you just for reasons. The visual, I found it quite confusing, I have to say.
Because it sounds really confusing.
I don't know how else to describe this. The visuals are crisp, so let's move away from the plot and stuff. So the visuals are crisp, they're nice and high res, because they're single colour for a lot of it. They move quite fast. You can move around these because you see the rooms in a sort of pseudo 3D. So castles of the Mad Doctor one and stuff like. So you see it like that, and so you move back and forth through into these rooms in 3D. You see it from one side through the camera. Two of them side by side, like I said. So you kind of see them that way. So you can move in and out of them, and you've got to avoid the other droids and things like that. If you press the fire button, this brings up some icons at the bottom, but you're not overkill with the icons. They're quite simple. It's just basically swap through the different droids you can control. You can control which two screens you see as well, which is kind of a weird touch, but I guess if you want to see to the left or the right, it's odd. Anyway, you can control that, or you can lob the bomb if you've got hold of a bomb and pick the angle you want to throw it. And okay, so it's quite a clever concept. I imagine that there's a really clever concept here, and it's pretty well delivered. But I found myself personally just lost. I couldn't get a handle on it, and I was never quite sure what I was doing or how I was supposed to achieve the ends, which I wasn't quite aware of anyway. I had to get the bombs out of the building, but I've just found myself stuck in rooms with no exits after falling through the floor and couldn't work out. Well, am I supposed to work or what? I don't know how to navigate through this space. I watched a YouTube playthrough of it because I thought, hang on a minute, let me just watch a YouTube and see some. And I was still none the wiser. It was just someone zipping through rooms doing stuff. I think it's a smart game, hacker-like. Maybe Spy versus Spy is another thing that somewhere along the line there's parts of that in this. Maybe I'm not actually sure about this. I think they really liked it. I think they got more from it. Whether there was some stuff in the manual that really helped, I don't know. But I found myself not really sure what the hell I was doing with this, and I tried and I had quite a few goes, watched the YouTube video, tried to get my head around it, tried to find some rules, tried to find stuff, but I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. There was something about it that just I didn't know what I was doing, and so I feel a bit like I'm letting it down a bit because I feel there is quite a clever game here, but it just left me bewildered, I think is the word I took away from this. So did you get more from it? Did you understand it better than I did?
I thought it was dog egg.
And so let's move on.
I didn't like the look of it when it loaded and when I was going through it and starting it. I thought, okay, so it's an arcade puzzly maze thing, but and it operated quite fast, so that's one good thing about it. And it's got those kind of almost vector style graphics, but not quite. And I sort of read through the story arc of it, the whole, you've got to control the bomb squad disposal droids and you've got to do all of that and all that stuff. And I lost myself in there. And then when I came to play the game, I kind of got bewildered by what I was doing. Periodically, I could control it looked like a Pac-Man ghost that I was kind of pushing backwards and forwards. Then I was on a map in the middle, and I was thinking, I just wasn't sure exactly. So I wasn't sure exactly what I was doing. So I deferred to kind of instructions and tried to figure that out. Didn't reveal much about it. And in the end, I came to the simple conclusion that there might have been an interesting game in there, but there was fucked if I could find it. I tried and tried and tried, and I couldn't get to it. I just thought it was a weird 3D-ish puzzle game that I found impossible to play and understand what I was doing at any point. And I thought, no. Yeah. It got 82% in Zapped, so it makes me think that at some level they figured something out about it that I didn't. I just couldn't quite figure out how the map related to the two sort of player screen things and the bomb disposal droids. And I found myself not being able to move the things I thought I could at any given moment. I was moving the joystick around at one point. It was moving sort of squares around the map thing in the central console at the bottom. Yep. And I thought, is it a bit like chess? Is that certain things can move in certain ways? And then all of a sudden I could just move the droid thing in the screen back towards the thing, and it was quite fast in the kind of a sort of 3D depth kind of way. I was like, okay, and I went through a door, and then all of a sudden I was controlling the left sort of screen because it was split into three, wasn't it? It was the bottom map sort of controller thing. There was the left screen, and then after I was like, what the hell am I doing?
This is the most confusing review ever.
And I started thinking, what am I haven't deactivated anything, and that's the name of the game. And there are bombs there, and I can't reach them. I can't do anything. Am I even controlling this game? Do you know what? Suddenly, at one point, I thought to myself, have I just been playing, because I've done this before.
Playing a demo.
The demo mode's running, and I'm like moving the joystick thinking it was me. Am I doing that? And then, no, it was definitely me. And I was thinking, you know what? Make your games more instant and playable, or get lost, because for $9.95, if I'd have bought this, I would have expected to just be able to get into it and start defusing bombs a la Spy versus Spy in that kind of universe. So I'm running around, I find a bomb, and I press the fire button, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bomb's disabled, and then another bomb appears on my bomb map at the bottom of the screen. Oh my God, I've got to run from 5 screens, but this thing's blocking me between there and now. I've got to navigate a landscape, or if there's enemies in my way, how am I going to navigate that? And I've only got limited amount of ammo to shoot things. I'm not making the game up for you people who made Deactivators. I'm just saying that's the way I would have done it, which is way better than your stupid crappy shit game. So
I don't think it's that bad. I think it's just I just don't think we got it.
But that is a problem. If you don't get it.
Is a problem, yeah.
And I looked at the instructions, and I looked at the blurb, and I looked at all the wrappings and everything else. This was a Christmas paper wrapped dog shit. And so I opened that paper, peeled it back, thinking, this is lovely. And then there was cling film, and I'm like, that's weird. Why would anyone put wrapping paper over cling film? And then when I peeled open the cling film, the smell of dog shit hit me, and I'm like, that's an evil present. That's nasty. Whoever sent me that is nasty. You should never send someone a dog shit.
No, because then it's cleanup time.
Exactly. It was cleanup time. So, yeah. I didn't enjoy Deactivators. I'd have been angry at myself for paying 10 quid for that. It's a load of nonsense. And I don't think it's that if we both didn't get it, if I mean, normally in this situation, you normally figure these things out way quicker than I do. But if you didn't get it and I didn't get it, then that tells me that this game is not something that's instantly gettable, because, we're pretty savvy guys. So, no.
One for us.
No.
Not for us.
No.
No. Okay, so that's Deactivators. Too complex and just weird, and I don't get it. So there we go. Let's move on. To our final game for this episode and this month. And, well, have I left one of the best till last? There's a question.
Ooh.
Don't know, have I? Because, Graham, AlleyKat. Tell us about the AlleyKat.
So this is a Andrew Braybrook game. So what the expectations are polish and other stuff. This was dialogued in Zapped as well, I think, with a bit of was it a making of diary, developer diary kind of thing again?
Was there? I don't know. No, I don't think there was for this.
I thought there was for AlleyKat. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I think Morpheus was the one.
Morpheus was the one. So AlleyKat is it's either a racing game with shoot 'em up elements or a shoot 'em up with racing elements. But the idea is you've got a sort of a craft, a speeder craft, and you compete in 8 sort of. It's a bit actually, if it's almost a top-down version of the pod racing from the Star Wars movie, though. So it's that kind of idea. So you sort of compete in these sort of top-down, super fast races. Almost shoot 'em up style, really. So sort of vertical scrolling shooter with sort of top-down logic. You can control the speed of the ship with your fire button and up and down. You can almost do a loop-the-loop. That felt a little bit to me like 1942 arcade, so that kind of a logic. So I think it's a scrolling race shmup, really. And it kind of borrows from a central idea of a lot of other games to sort of fulfill a kind of arcade mentality. So it's fast scrolling, arcade-style kind of shooting. Usual Braybrook kind of noises in the sound effects department, so blippy, bloppy, very Iridium, very Paradroid style noises. I think the graphics, I felt they were a little bit dull and uninspired, but at the same time, they kind of work in the context of this. The color schemes were a bit lame. It almost had a Spy Hunter vibe to the kind of the way it worked, sort of left and right sides of the screen with kind of bits of sort of landscape and stuff that happens in the middle. There's a almost pure logic, arcade logic to it, and that I think is undeniable. It's a really attempting to be an arcade. It's all about getting through, I think there's 8 levels, but it's all about getting through the levels and getting the score. It's all about score and accumulation of that and getting that and the speed and the essence. Problem I had with it was I didn't enjoy it. I felt that it was just a bit dull, and as much as there's different kind of race sort of mentalities and different layouts and graphics and stuff like that, and there's even a cooperative 2-player mode, which sounded confusing beyond belief, actually. Problem I had for me is that there's a pure arcade logic, maybe, and it's undeniable, really, and it's designed to make you want to keep racing and do better and get faster. Just didn't do that for me. I just felt like it was a bit too hard, too difficult, too much, too infuriating to really have any longevity, and so it kind of made me want to tune out. It had all of the trappings, but it just lacked the player sensibility that made me want to really replay it. It just felt like it was too much trouble to bother with and too difficult. What about you?
Yeah, It's interesting to hear you say that, actually, because kind of it mirrors. We're so on the same page with a lot of these at the moment. So yeah, it's the fourth Andrew Braybrook game we've looked at. That's quite some going in this. It's a short amount of time, really.
Time, so 4 games, pretty crazy. 6 months a game.
And I'll start with the good, okay? Because what's good about this game is everything around the game. The presentation of this game is incredible. So it's standout. It's a presentation standout. This is highly polished. That title screen, I really like the title. I like the title screen music. There's cool, neat touches all the way through it. There's the animations are really nice. The sort of way it shows you all the different enemies on the title screen, all that kind of stuff. There's the animations. There's the raster bar effects. There's everything. It looks lovely. It's so smooth. It's so nice. The high score entry is good. And the height and the way the table is. To me, this is a proper masterclass in polish.
Yeah,
if you're going to look at polish around a game, so that's where it is. So everything, the cake, the Scotch egg, the filling, the part around the Scotch egg is amazing. So you've bitten through that. The problem is that the egg in the middle has gone off.
Bizarre but accurate analogy I've heard in a long time.
The pork pie filling around the pork, breaded pork is gorgeous, and you're like, oh, this is going to be so good inside, and suddenly the egg is dog inside this beautiful filling, and it's not gone off. It's lost all taste.
A Scotch dog egg.
It's lost everything. It's Scotch dog egg. Yeah, that's what we've got here.
Scotching of things.
Oh, it's a Scotch dog egg.
They've scotched, they scotch their eggs, they scotch everything. They scotch Scotch pie, Scotch pants, Scotch money. They just cover everything in breadcrumb and meat.
And sometimes that works, Mars bars, and sometimes it doesn't. Dog eggs.
No one should eat a Mars bar covered in meat and breadcrumbs.
No, I would.
To be fair, I would as well.
Because you would. And then it's cleanup time.
No. Now you know why.
Oh,
that's what produces the web.
Somebody think of the children. So yes, all that is great. Everything around it, because the game is like a bad. It's not. I think a bit harsh. It's not bad. It's just a dull egg. The egg has lost all taste. There's nothing to it. So this kind of destructural, futuristic Grand Prix season that you progress through it's a nice idea. It's just the races are really dull. They're really boring, and so there's nothing. The actual game is really disappointing.
Yep.
Because everything looks great. I don't mind the graphics. I think the graphics are quite cool. It moves at that typical Braybrook pace. The scrolling is incredibly smooth. The actual ship design, your ship design is great. Open up, basic and the winged version. The loop, as you said, the speed up, height option, it's all there. It's just dull to just do it time and time again. And like I said, the death of your ship when you crash and that crash landing thing, it's all brilliant. Everything looks great. It just gets very samey very quickly, and there's nothing making you want to come back to it.
No,
nothing. And it's a real disappointment, I think, because there's something here, but there's, I think, so much time spent on the periphery. Yeah. On that sausage meat that the middle has been forgotten about.
The egg got lost in the mix.
It did, and that's a shame, because I have fond memories of AlleyKat, but going back to it, I was robbed of them, I think, and I didn't enjoy my time at this.
What surprised me with AlleyKat was that it didn't have more of the logic around making your vehicle the thing that would be really cool. So upgrading your vehicle in little bits. Bit like you do with a Ghostbusters car, where you can bolt bits on. And I think, like I said, that whole idea of it being a bit like the pod racer part of Star Wars. Just allied that for a minute and just, imagine a sort of super speed futuristic racer where you could build extra speed components to your vehicle and weapons. That's what I imagined in my mind AlleyKat would be. But it almost has that central race logic, but none of the other dressing. And I think that's really where it could have really made something out of it. It surprises me that Braybrook didn't go down that road with this.
This would have been better if it had got rid of the enemies coming towards you and just had some other racers on the track.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Completely. It would have made more sense to be a racer than a shmup.
Yeah, you could have still had the shooting stuff, so the other enemies were shooting stuff as well. You could bump them into like Spy Hunter. Remember as well, this is very influenced by Pathfinder.
It is.
Visually, from a visual standpoint, as we said ages ago. And
I think that I actually completely agree with you. If this had have been, make it more like Spy Hunter, where you're just in a race and there's things that are going to get in your way and you've got to get them out of the way and do stuff. Make it more about that, and that make other competitors. You could even make it 2-player, couldn't you? Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of missed tricks with AlleyKat. It's such a shame, really. I'm surprised it scored as highly as it did. I'm not surprised though, because Zapp's scoring has gone
Well, I think
wild.
there was disagreement on this review. I think it's Gary Penn who thinks thought like us, and the others liked it. So I think this was
Okay.
I think there was some people that would have put this as a Sizzler, and I think Gary Penn who's going,
you know
this
what?
is really dull.
At some point, I think, because I know that Julian Rignall, certainly follows us on Twitter, and he is certainly very active in the whole retro and C64 scene still. I'd like to actually ask Julian Rignall about that. It's one of the many questions I've got for Julian Rignall, which is, and one of mine, all other questions is, how high did your hair spikes reach? Because they were kind of, I aspired almost to have hair spikes like that. And my hair was never going to be that spiky, but I did at one point have hair spikes like that.
You did. I remember that, and I'd shaved the sides off my head.
You shaved your sideburns.
I did. I wanted to be in the Simpsons baseball team. Between us, sort of thing, we were half Rignall.
Between us, we were making sure we were never going to get laid. That was our plan.
Not for many a year. Especially not when I was running around going, it's clean-up time.
I had long, spiky hair and mullet and a moustache. Things were never going to go well for me. And that's it, it was never going to work.
Quite the catch.
Quite the catch, yeah. But AlleyKat, on the other hand, awful. Oh, not awful.
Yeah.
That's actually the wrong word. Just,
It's a boring egg in lovely meat.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's properly, you bite into the Scotch egg, and in the middle of that, you're going to find, an actual real egg that's not cooked. It's just going to crack in your mouth. You're eating yolk and what's the white bit? Albumin, I guess.
Albumin. Yeah, you get full-on albumin dribble in your beard.
Oh, that's gross, isn't it? Have you ever tried to actually eat a raw egg?
And on that note, let's move on. We're not getting into your open your heart stuff again about eggs. We've been there. There we go. AlleyKat. I think we need to end there.
Yes,
quickly.
I think we do.
Right. So AlleyKat,
is the
disappointing. AlleyKat. There we go. We didn't cover a couple of games. There was 2 Trivial Pursuit games in this episode. One got a Sizzler and one
We'll
didn't.
come
There was
back
Trivial
to them
Pursuit.
maybe in some way at some point. Maybe.
Maybe, I don't know. We'd need to do a multiplayer, wouldn't we? Yeah, Trivial Pursuit got Sizzler, Mind Pursuit, but the Pursuit games, the Trivial Pursuit games, so you need multiple players, and we don't have them at the moment, so there you go. Right, so what have we got now coming up? Oh, that's the last of our games. We've got some Crapverts. Now, the first one's not so much a Crapvert as a bizarre vert. I don't know what this is.
Is this the Cholo?
There's some so this is Cholo by, I think, British Telecom.
Because
there's the Telecom logo up there. Firebird British. Oh, they were owned by British Telecom, but it's also gold. So it's got that gold logo in the bottom right-hand corner. I don't know. Maybe they really like the Spandau Ballet song.
Look at the prices. Goodness me.
Yeah, I know. $14.95 on cassette. I don't know what this is.
$17.95 on disc. And what's the $19.95?
That's disc for Amstrad.
Did Amstrads have discs?
Yeah, there was the 646 one there.
I don't know. I don't want to know.
I think the 646, I could be wrong. I don't know my Amstrad numerology.
With no screen grabs.
It's like hieroglyphics.
With no screen grabs of this game, I can only assume that it's crap and it's...
Well,
what is it?
I don't know. Are you looking from the floor up at like a street view? Are they buildings going up?
They're like skyscrapers, don't they? Yeah, I get what you're saying.
In front of you. And then in the middle, so that's all black and grey.
Yeah.
And you're kind of looking up with perspective. But then in the middle, there's these yellow polygons floating around.
It reminds me of Demon Seed.
It reminds me of many bad things, yeah. In the middle of the screen, in the middle of it, though, there's just a white crosshair.
Yes.
There's some red borders around the edge. And then on the left, in sort of a rounded font, just says Cholo. And both the O's have different coloured in middles, a green and a blue one.
There's part of the general typographic and design layout of this that I really like.
Yeah, it's not bad. I said it's a bizarre vert.
No, it's got a nice sort of... There's a nice construction
It's the polygons in the middle.
Yeah, I think just...
And the crosshair.
And the Cholo doesn't... It's all incoherent, and I think... I'm not sure quite what that means and what it is. And Cholo sounds like a really crap kind of anachronism or an anagram of something that you text somebody, a bit like LOL or ROFL. And so Cholo must stand for something.
Crying hard of loud oranges.
Yeah, clap hands over large orange. There it is.
I've Choloed.
Or clap hands over large orifice.
Ew. It's clean-up time.
Clean hands. No. So I don't know what cholo means. I'm not sure what it is. And the target, the reticule in the middle, means maybe it's some kind of shooty logic. I don't know what it is. I do like the visual design of the background behind the cholo and the orange 3D object. I like the little typographic touches at the top. That's actually very, very early 2000s web design. A lot of early Flash websites looked a bit like this. So there's a nice futuristic idea around it, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, my issue with this is that it's, as we said before, it's all the constituent ingredients, but they don't go together.
No.
They don't gel. The polygons in the middle don't gel with the black and grey background. The cholo writing doesn't fit with the hard edge polygons, and it doesn't fit with the sort of red and sort of bare bones typographical stuff at the top.
And I noticed it says it's available for BBC, which tells me that that's probably where it started. The journey of this game started on the BBC, so you know it's going to be a little bit shit.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
And also that
shit.
gold in the bottom right-hand corner doesn't deserve... I don't know whether or not
I don't know what that means. I actually quite like the typographic G. I don't know why, really. I just quite like the way they've tied it in. It means nothing, though. I like the Firebird logo. I just don't get this. It's as a coherent whole, it's gibberish. But from a design point of view, it's a nice step in the right direction. There's a nice typeface. Do not ever fill in your O's with a colour, because that is, that makes me want to reach back in time and pull your eyeballs out.
Get the time machine out.
No, exactly. And it does also feel like, you notice the way it's got them little red lines and the little squares in the corner?
Yeah.
That does feel like an Illustrator scale tool that's been left on the screen.
That's what I thought as well, yes. Yeah.
But it kind of works, and I quite like the sci-fi font. Never do that in white. That would have worked so much better if it was in silhouette, or there's a million ways you can do that. I might do that eventually. You never
I think
know.
you'd have just been better, for me, you would have just been better if Cholo would have gone across the middle, instead of going down across the middle, got rid of that crosshair, and maybe even just got rid of the yellow stuff as well, and just had that typeface. Just had the background, just Cholo across the middle.
Well,
kept it simple.
If I was going to just dissect it very quickly, I'd get rid of the gold. I'd reduce the size of the Firebird. I would keep the typographic little display, the red stuff and the little white text. I would get rid of the whatever the hell that is in the middle and the reticule. And the cholo, I would have made a very much smaller textual content somewhere on it. Certainly wouldn't have been to try. A lot of these games do that in the 80s, though. They try and make the brand and the logo the thing. And it's always in competition with things like the Firebird logo and stuff. A game doesn't need a brand. It just needs to represent. But that's actually 80s design logic. That comes later in the 90s and the 2000s, where the subtlety and the idea of representing a brand but not necessarily having to show it off in a logo and a font, that comes a lot later. In this early 80s style, it's very heavily influenced by that. I actually find it genuinely fascinating as someone that really enjoys design and typography like that. But there's a Wipeout vibe to this, from one of examples.
Yes, that's actually not a bad call. Yeah, there is.
And it predates that by 20 years, so that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Well, 10 years, 10, 15 years.
10 years, yeah, 10.
Yeah,
all right, there you go. That's Cholo, which is interesting, but mismatched.
The next one's awful.
Yeah, you want to tell us about the next one? Prodigy?
I'm not even sure where you begin with this. I don't know if it because it's bloody Electric Dreams, isn't it?
It is.
And do you know, in the back of my mind, whenever I see Electric Dreams, I think they got the Big Trouble in Little China license somehow. So I'm like,
did they?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's them. It makes me nervous.
I didn't even know there was a game based on that.
Yeah, there is. That. We'll come across it, no doubt. So this is a game called Prodigy, and this is in the graphic images is of a space person on a landscape. Looks like he's trapped in a container ship storage area, looking at a giant diamond on a plinth. And there's a screen above the game which looks like an isometric nightmare for me.
Yeah,
and then there's the bottom, I'd say probably third of the image, because that's the top 2/3 is the Prodigy logo, is the upper quadrant, done in a kind of a jiggity-jaggedy 80s style pointy font, which doesn't really shout, and it's got a drop shadow on it again, but at least it's not a terrible drop shadow, but it has, none of it makes any cohesion or sense. It's got the classic Electric Dreams triangle, of course. The triangles appeared in there.
Yep.
And it says, inexplicably, synthetic man changes nappy. I don't know what that means. I don't understand why it even says that.
No.
And then there's a description underneath: macabre mech labs infested with genetic horrors hinder Solo, a synthetic man and Nijo, a human baby. It just, honestly, I'm not going to read it all to you. Just check out the Crapvert on the Crapverts link for the website because it's just gibberish. It makes no bloody sense whatsoever. An outstanding achievement of graphics and animation, says the company that made the game. Prodigy takes you into the mech labs of Mech World, where you must guide Solo the Scintilman through the Ice Zone, Fire Zone, Tech Zone, and Veggie Zone. Veggie Zone. In his quest for escape. Now, Fire, Ice, and Tech, I can understand. Veggie Zone? Is he surrounded by vegans just angrily telling him how much meat he's eating? I don't know. Or how much meat they're not eating. Solo has to look after the needs of Nijo, cleaning him up. That sounds frantic and horrific. Feeding him and protecting him as they make their way through the intelligent mazes, blah, 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 and the uncanny vegetation created by the sorcerer Wardlock. It's just introducing stupid shit.
As a machine being, is malevolent towards organic life.
Prodigy is a game which demands compassion, guts, and intelligence in ways no other game does. Because games don't require those things.
No, not
ever.
generally.
You don't require compassion, guts, and well, maybe a bit of intelligence, but compassion and guts aren't generally prerequisites for a game.
I also hate the fact that somebody's highlighted these bits in pink, pink highlighter to sort of say it's obviously to make. Oh, just change these bits, and they've left them in.
I have to ask, AD, are the people that make these adverts f***ing colourblind or something? At
Pink
what
on
point
yellow.
do you create bright pink on yellow and then write on it with red? Just, are you stupid in a way that is indefinable? Is there at some point somebody QA'd this and looked at that and went, yeah, that's great. You can't read the damn word, you stupid fucking idiot. You can't read it. You can't read those words. And it says 3D 4-way control and landscape. Just the maths of that break my brain. 3D 4-way. An outstanding musical soundtrack combined with stunning sound effects. Just what they say themselves. Nobody's agreeing to that. This is just stupid in a stupid way. And that's just the text. The image itself is badly drawn. His legs have got wobbly, wiggly. He's in a suit, but he's got massive... That suit is loose of leg, tight on arse.
Very tight on
that
arse.
That is cupping his arse cheeks to the point when that's going to be uncomfortable because he's almost got a bulbous arse.
He's almost got a single cheek.
And see, if he farts in that, he's ripping out that suit. It's going to open.
Yeah, those tanks are going to blow.
Exactly, they are. He's got two massive, what I guess are oxygen tubes feeding into his space helmet.
I hate the fact as well that he's outlined and nothing else in the images.
When I saw that, I'm like, why? That shouts it was drawn and added. And they've put that crappy shadow on as well, which makes no sense whatsoever.
No.
It's just, I don't get
It's a bad thing.
It's just, it's a classic Crapvert, and it's just another Electric Dreams monstrosity. Just, I don't know what goes on in Southampton. Do they just I think these are definitely eating too many of them kind of Scotch eggs we've talked about. All Scotch and no egg.
It's just feasting on the egg of dog.
Oh, it's just crap. But check out the Crapvert on the website. If you don't believe what we're saying about it, please feel free to check it out. You will, as you see that, take an oral and a visual dump in your own eyes.
Yeah. Or if you're watching this on the YouTube version, you'll already be able to see it.
Exactly.
Right in front of you.
You are going to shit out of your own eyes. You're just going to blink and there'll be turds on your eyelids. You're like, how did that happen?
Oh, it's clean up time.
You're going to need a baby wipe.
Oh, yeah. Let's move. Come on. Let's get to the end of this because I can't take any more looking at that advert. Let's do right. Well, we got the charts. What was going in the charts? Oh, there was a load of new stuff here. We had at number 10, straight in it was Dan Dare. Number down to number 9 was Ghosts and Goblins. Straight in at number 8 was Ninja.
Oh, Jesus.
Hiding its way in.
Where is my ninja? I can't see him anymore.
Yeah, in at number 7, I'm losing track, was Warhawk. Up to number 6 was Parallax. Down to number 5 was Speed King. Up to number 4, Hole in One. Jesus Christ. Down to number 3 was Dragon's Lair. Go for Gold. Oh, that's Hess Games, isn't it?
Yeah.
In at number 2 is Hess Games, Go for Gold on Americana. And straight in at number 1 was Super Cycle.
Which makes sense.
It does, yeah. It's a big game that was. And people liked Hang On in the arcade, so this is your closest you've got to Hang On at home. And it's a...
Grasp on.
Oh, dear, right. There we go. That's your charts. There's your Crapverts. What we got coming up
Ooh, we've
in the
got
next
some
couple of weeks.
corkers in this next episode.
Yeah, we've got Mad Nurse.
Finally. It's only taken,
Finally.
seven or 8 years.
Whew. All right, so we've got 180 Ace of
I
Aces
love
and
that.
Tyriad.
Ooh.
Now, the Archers, that must be an adventure game. Must be.
Must be.
BMX Simulator,
Oh,
Bobby
dear.
Bearing.
Oh, dear.
No, there's the Boulder Dash construction kit. I don't know if
Finally.
we're going to look at that, but anyway. Captain Kelly. Don't know about that. Dante's Inferno.
Yay.
Fist 2.
Oh, good God.
Glider Rider.
Interesting.
Highway Encounter. I think Inheritance, that's around the same place as the Archers, so I'm guessing that's, it is, because Qua and Leather Goddess is a Phobos.
Is that Leather Goddess
They're all
of
adventure
Phobos,
games.
isn't it? Yeah.
It is, yes. There's the Infocom game. Mad Nurse,
Oh.
Marble Madness.
Ooh.
Montezuma's Revenge, so we can get attacked by head bones. Or skulls to you and I.
Look after your head bone.
Movie Monster.
Oh, dear.
That's an epic. Is that an epic? I don't know. Orpheus in the Underworld.
Okay.
Don't remember that at all. The Pawns and Adventure Game. Pub
Have you
Games.
been in the stage play of Orpheus in the Underworld?
I played Mercury.
Yes.
I did. Pub Games, Red Max, Robobolt, The Sentinel.
Oh, my God.
I think we're going to make people angry with that. Soldier 1, Street Surfer. I'm not just going to beat around the bush. I reckon there's loads of people that like Sentinel, but they're going to listen to us and they're going to go, I'm never listening to this again.
I am going to give it a replay because I
suffered through Elite, I suffered through Mercenary, and now you've said the Sentinels. It might be good, I don't know.
We don't know. I'm going to replay it with open eyes, I'm telling you, because I have a feeling it's probably a lot better than I thought.
And it's also better than playing it with closed eyes.
Yes.
That would be bad. Strike Force Cobra.
Interesting.
No idea. Trailblazer,
That's
Trapdoor,
Oh.
and Uchimata.
Oh, the old Uchimata game, yeah.
Judo Simulator. Not Judy Simulator.
It's just play a random Judy.
Punch and Judy.
It is actually that. They could have called it that.
Yeah, Punch and Judy.
You punch and I'll Judy.
Tonight, this morning with Punch and Judy. Jesus.
I think it's time
That's
to
it.
go.
I think it really is time to go. Thank you for listening. If you're still with us, it is indeed cleanup time here. So, as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
I have been Scotch without the egg, Graham Reddings.
And you have been listening to Glorious Sausage Meat with the dog egg in the middle. And for that, we can only apologise. So we will see you next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Reddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.